How come I found myself over the weekend watching That's So Raven? And napping.
Okay, I call to order the Roseville Town Board regular meeting, July 6, 2022. Thanks, everyone, for coming out. We will do the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we have Reverend Tyler Williams from the Village Church will lead us in prayer. Thank you, Tyler.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Gracious God, who loves everything that you have made, we give you thanks that in your great love you moved into our human neighborhood in the person of Jesus. Help us to love our neighbors well, guide and direct those commissioners and others who serve this town, that they might make decisions to help Rolesville be a place of welcome and of justice. We ask this in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you for coming out, Tyler. Appreciate that. Okay, first item on the agenda tonight is recognition of July as Parks and Recreation Month. I do have a proclamation on that. I will read here. So, Proclamation of Town of Roseville National Parks and Recreation Month, July 1 through 31st of 2022. Whereas park and recreation is an integral part of the communities throughout this country, including the state of North Carolina and the town of Roseville, and whereas parks and recreation promotes health and wellness, improving physical and mental health of people who live near parks, and whereas parks and recreation promotes time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health by increasing cognitive performance and well-being and eradicating illnesses such as depression, attention deficit disorders, and Alzheimer's. And whereas Parks and Recreation encourages physical activities by providing space for popular sports, hiking trails, swimming pools, and many other activities designated to promote active lifestyles. And whereas Parks and Recreation programming and education activities such as out-of-school time programming, youth sports, and environmental education, and critical to childhood development, whereas Parks and Recreation increases the community economic prosperity through increased property values, expansion of local tax base, increased tourism, and attraction and retention of businesses, and crime reduction. And whereas Parks and Recreation is fundamental to the environmental well-being of our state, and whereas the Parks and Recreation is essential and adaptable infrastructure that makes all communities really resilient in the face of natural disasters. And whereas our parks and natural recreation areas encourage the ecological beauty of our state and provide a place for children and adults to connect with nature and recreate outdoors. And whereas local parks in our state generate more than $6 billion in economic activity and provide over 37,000 jobs, ranking North Carolina as 10th in the nation. And whereas United States House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and whereas the state of North Carolina recognizes the benefits derived from the parks and recreation resources, now therefore I, Ronnie Kern, Mayor of the town of Roseville, along with the town of Roseville Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim July 1, 2031 of 2022 as Park and Recreation Month, and encourage our citizens to participate in recreation programs, attend special events, and visit local parks here in Roseville. And this is adopted on the 6th day of July 2022. So just a big, huh?
Oh, it's a good job.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
So a big thank you and shout out to our recreation department. I know they work very hard. I see JG there in the back. Just give my appreciation to all the employees and the volunteers. And I see Derek out there. Derek put a lot of time into our parks and recreation, and I really appreciate all the volunteers and people that serve on the board. Paul serves on the recreation board, and just appreciate all the. It wouldn't happen without the work that you guys do, and just appreciate that. Much thanks to all of you on that. Appreciate it a lot. Anybody got any comment? Paul, you got any comments on that? We'll get when your time comes up.
Yeah, we'll get to it.
All right. So at this time, we'll review the agenda of the board. Any addition, deletions, any new agenda items to be considered? If not, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
I got a motion and a second. Is there other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any. Thank you, board. Appreciate that. The liaison reports, Paul, Commissioner Bilger, Parks and Recreation, you're the first one.
Yeah, the meeting last week, they discussed budget allocation for the farm entrance that was recently approved, Chandler's Ridge land that's still available for a possible park, discussed the term limits that were passed, the bike and pedestrian plan we had just reviewed, and also noted that the entire group still firmly stands behind their recommendation to move forward with the larger community center design.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Appreciate that. Commissioner Sutton, Economic Development?
Yes, we met on Friday, June 24th. The Roseville Downtown Development Association, we affectionately call RDDA. We met and we actually toured the Cobblestone site with the Cobblestone representative, Holly. Is Holly here tonight? She's not. To see how they are progressing. It appears that all the undergrounding is now done. And I'm talking about the corner of Main and Young, for those that may not know. Holly stated that she's working with several interested business owners who would like to be in Cobblestone Village, and those names will be released once they're under contract. So things are coming along there. I'm happy to see that. We also had the opportunity to tour the new Creative Exchange. Anybody know what I'm talking about? The Creative Exchange is diagonally across from Cobblestone Village, which is located in the where the main Roseville furniture store used to be. So the exchange will feature local artisans, crafters, and other other vendors selling their items from a booth-type space within the venue. It reminds me of, or very similar in nature to, the Cotton Exchange in Wake Forest. So a great economic opportunity happening here in town. Love that. And then I also had the opportunity last Thursday, June 30th, to attend the Roseville Chamber Business Expo. It was held at Roseville Baptist Church at their event center, which is really, really nice. I had not been in there. I was very impressed. They had about 30 vendors. I got to meet over half of those vendors. I was there quite a long time. It was a really great event, and the chamber already talked about looking at having it again next year. So great opportunity. A lot of happenings in Roseville. I could go on, but I'll stop there just to let you know that things are happening. Thank you so much.
That's great. Great to hear. We've still got economic development going on.
Yes.
So great job. I know it's a lot of hard work put around economic development too, and it doesn't just happen. So
Right.
appreciate all the effort teams are doing on that.
Sure.
Commissioner Medley, the planning board?
Okay, so we met this past, what day did we meet? I'm so sorry, but I know it was recently. It's been a long week. And basically, the first half of the meeting, JG presented the Greenway plan and the bike plan, which there's a lot to that plan. I think it took like an hour for that presentation. And if anybody would like to see it, you can go online. Is that on YouTube as well? Yeah, go online to YouTube and you can see all the details that was presented in that plan. And again, it's a very detailed plan. With that, for this board, we also discussed, well, the planning board discussed the LDL, the text amendments. Some of it was an extension of what we had talked about on the board here a couple of days earlier, I believe. And it was just a refresher, giving them an idea to express their opinion on what's happening there and thoughts on amendments. So pretty much that was much quicker than the Greenway presentation, but I'm just saying, well, that's okay. That was really it. So.
Very good. Thank you. Appreciate the update there. Commissioner Austin, veterans?
Yes, sir. I would like to thank Stuart Matz for allowing the Roseville Rotary Club to display the United States flags in honor of Independence Day. And I also like to thank the volunteers that helped out with that. As well as there was a follow-up meeting with Wake Med. that was held on June 20th at 3 p.m. to discuss bringing a medical facility here to Roseville and what it would mean for our town as we continue to grow. More updates to follow on that. There will be a meeting on Friday, July 8th with the Garden Club to brainstorm concepts of the Blue Star Memorial as well as the Veterans Memorial. And that's all I have, sir.
Thank you. That's a good update. Appreciate that. And Commissioners need public safety.
Okay. Last week, we had a meeting with the fire department. We still do not have a formal resolution from them. We're waiting on that. They have come back asking for some modifications for us to consider, and we have a meeting on Monday to discuss those. And we're hoping to have the new amended resolution supported by all to present at our August 2nd meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay, now we'll move on to communications from town staff. Meredith, I think from planning, you got an update for us in planning?
I certainly do.
Anything happening in your planning department or?
Been taking a lot of naps and relaxing. So, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I have a brief Planning Department update for you this evening. I decided to take a drive yesterday afternoon and take a few photos of what's going on. I'm sure you've noticed plenty of single-family homes coming up in Chandler's Ridge and Preserve at Jones Dairy South. In the month of June, we had 50 single-family permits issued, and our year-to-date total for single-family permits is 117, so June was a big month. And Carlton Point Townhomes, we recently had the final plat signed, so you'll see those townhomes under construction very soon. Carolina Legacy Volleyball, I know many of you were at the ribbon cutting for that. You can see construction activity going on there. As well, we're looking forward to more happening on the Walbrook site. So at your next town board meeting, the site plan for Walbrook Buildings 1, 2, 3, and 4, that includes the publics, will be in front of you for an evidentiary hearing. And we recently had a rezoning application come in for 503 South Main Street. And like I said, I was driving around yesterday, and I took this picture yesterday, and then Michael gave me this picture for today. So that little change from yesterday to today. So that will be at a town board meeting soon for you to review. And the Planning Department is working on two pieces of communication. First, it has to do with food truck permits. We get a lot of food truck permits coming through. And as per the budget that you all adopted that's effective, or was effective July 1st, we now have food truck permit fees. And we'd like to give our applicants a grace period with those and provide some communication about those fees. It's very typical and standard to have fees for municipalities for food truck permits. So I wanted to let you know about that in case you got any questions or comments. And also, we'd like to prepare communication about signage and code enforcement. With coming out of COVID, I know during COVID, some of our sign ordinance enforcement was relaxed to help businesses since things were shut down and less active. And now that things are a lot more active, we'd like to communicate our sign ordinance and focus on code enforcement and our community's appearance. And that is all I have for you for planning, unless you'd have some questions.
I do have a question.
Certainly.
You said there's going to be a meeting about, what is it, the fee structure?
Oh, I'd like to prepare communication and do a news release and do something on social media about the fees for food truck permits. For example, a single location, single time is $25. There's an annual fee for $100. So it's a deal if you can do the annual permit. So let people know, because they haven't been paying up until now. Okay. So they need to know that there'll be a fee for the next round.
So that went into effect July 1st?
July 1st in our budget. Mm-hmm.
And there was no other communication sent out to let people know that this was happening, or
not about
were you being met with a lot of resistance?
I have not gotten any resistance yet.
Oh, okay. All right. So it's just sort of a heads up.
Yes, I'd like to give a heads up and have a grace period for that.
Okay.
Anything
Thank you.
else? Okay. Great.
Thank you. I like the pictures. I mean, that's cool. So, thanks for doing that. Michael McFarland, Community Economic Development. Anything to report?
Good evening, everyone. No picture, sorry, but I did send Meredith
No
that one
pictures.
picture.
You know the standard now.
I get credit for one of them. Lots of activity in town, as you know, and as Meredith mentioned, and also Commissioner Sutton. A lot of interest in the former furniture store building as well, and discussion around potential uses. So we're excited about that. And just to mention, the Creative Exchange will have their grand opening this Saturday. So for anybody that wants to go out this Saturday and check that out. Just know the day. I don't know if there's a time when, I can't remember when she opens or not.
Are they doing their own, or is it through the chamber?
I think they're doing their own. I haven't heard of
Okay.
that could be something.
Okay,
later
so
on.
It's not a ribbon cutting.
No,
It's not a
right.
ribbon, It's just a grand
More,
opening.
yeah, just kind
Okay.
of grand.
They've been open for a while, but, you know,
Yeah.
this
So they've
is the
done-
official grand opening, I think.
Right, they've done their soft opening for a couple weeks now, and so this will, be official. The last few months, it's kind of been all hands on deck regarding the Main Street Grant Project, and our town manager will provide an update later on that tonight, on that project. I did want to mention in June, a few weeks ago, I attended the North Carolina Economic Development Association's annual conference, and just a couple takeaways from that. Currently, the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina, and this is the state's leading economic development agency, they report that there are 244 active projects statewide, meaning that the state is engaging with 244 different companies looking to locate or relocate to North Carolina. And it was interesting to hear that while we've been winning a lot of projects recently, you've heard about VinFast going to Chatham County, that's the electric vehicle manufacturer, and a Toyota battery plant, and then also the two that are biotechnology companies going to Holly Springs. While we're hearing about a lot of these wins, we've also lost some big ones as well. And there's still a feeling among economic development leaders that we need more project-ready sites for commercial and industrial projects in the state to meet demand. So it was very interesting to hear. And I was reminded of, if here in Rolesville, if we don't have anything to show, then nobody's going to come looking at us. So just that importance of having some project-ready sites. There was a great session by the Economic Development Director in Monroe and Union County. Monroe's a city, kind of I think the county seat in Union County. And that area is experiencing some of the same challenges as Rolesville, being just outside Charlotte. Charlotte's got a lot of the business activity and commercial development. They're heavily dependent on residential tax base. And he spoke about the impacts of land use and how local communities thrive with a balance of land use, that textbook ratio. And I've said this before, being 60% residential tax base and 40% commercial or non-residential balance. And if you recall, ours is at about 92 to 8%. So part of his presentation, he cited a professor from the University of Georgia and another NC State professor who studied the return on tax dollars by land use in a few North Carolina counties. And kind of showed that while residential development, as we know, brings with it new tax revenue, it also brings demand for local government services, and the cost of those services exceeds the revenue generated by the new houses in every case they studied. So just kind of a reminder to me, residential development has that extremely high cost to serve versus other land uses, and it was further confirmation that the work we're doing, the purpose behind our commercial growth feasibility study and the importance of identifying land and planning for future industrial and commercial development is crucial. So it was good to hear and good to attend and visit with colleagues at that conference. There are a couple other things the town's been partnering with the Chamber of Commerce on, but I'm not going to say more, and maybe our next guest will talk a little bit about some of those. So that's it for me, but I'm here for questions.
Michael, who's the NC State person? Is that Mike Walden?
Nope, it's not him. It's like Mankiewicz or something. I can find out, but yeah.
Well, thank you, Michael. Thank you for all the work you and your team. Some of them are volunteers and
Yep.
other folks. You guys are doing a great job of kind of promoting the town from an economic standpoint. And I think we're going to see a lot of new changes coming soon. Not only just the one that we saw with the opening of the, what did you call it? The creative. Yeah,
Country market and
Creative, yeah.
Yeah. I think visiting everybody, they the big thing is still waiting on is that steakhouse. So maybe we'll get it soon.
We'll get it, yeah.
Did they open up their ice cream stand yet?
I think they're
Oh, this weekend?
Yep, yeah. So.
supposed to be some good ice cream. So
Yeah.
like ice cream.
Yep. So
Thank you.
You can get a Coke or a Pepsi up there now too. So the owner of the former furniture store reminded me that it's been 30 some odd years since you could go downtown in that area and get a
They have
Pep.
vintage sodas.
Right,
like
the vintage, right, the
old
vintage
bottle
stuff.
openers. It's really neat. We should have brought a picture.
Yeah.
I know.
Darn, next time.
Next time, yep.
Pictures, Michael.
I know. Yeah.
Thanks. Appreciate it. It's a good job. And I saw Terry Simmons come in. Where is Terry at? Come on up. Nice to see you tonight. Hope you're doing well.
I am. Good evening, everybody. I had given some handouts to Commissioner Medley. I'm not sure if you guys got that or not. And we definitely do have some things that we're partnering with you guys on. But Rachel is out of town for a much-needed vacation. So I'm here tonight. And I'm really going to give you more about the numbers because that's what I do. Can you hear me? Okay. First of all, as Commissioner Sutton had spoke on the Business Expo, we overall think that that was successful. It's been a long time since we had a Business Expo, so we're very excited about that. We're still looking to get some feedback from the vendors that attended. Not only was it, for businesses, but it was also a job fair because we know a lot of businesses are struggling trying to get people, workers and things like that. So it was kind of a collaboration of the two. So again, we're still waiting, on some feedback, but overall, we do feel like it was a successful event and that we are looking forward to doing it again. Some upcoming events that we're going to be having, we're going to have a board retreat. It's been a while since we did a board retreat, and since I'm the chair now, I figure it would be a good opportunity to kind of do some good brainstorming and bring some new ideas to the chamber and things that we can do different, and just making sure that what we're doing is continue to support the town as well as the members. We will have our annual dinner that's scheduled for August 18th between 6 and 9. That will be at the Wake Forest Renaissance Center, so make sure you guys put that on your calendar.
You said it was August?
August 18th.
August 18th. Yeah, so we're definitely looking forward to that. It's been like 2 years since we've been able to have that, so we're looking forward to that. Usually have a great turnout from the members, so we're looking forward to that. And I think we're also going to be having you do an address there as well.
Yeah, I think
Mayor.
so.
Yeah,
I
so
think
we're excited about
Rachel's
that.
planning to have sort of like a state of the town type thing.
Yeah, so we're excited about that. And then right now, we also have on our books for the golf tournament, which will be in October 27th. So I'm not sure exactly where we're going to have that at yet. I don't know if we're still going to have it at Heritage, but we're looking forward to that event as well. Okay. Again, I had presented you guys with a handout. And basically, on the very first page here, I put the prior MOU there because some of the expenses that we had spilled over into the current fiscal period. So I just wanted to kind of give you an update on that. So again, you have two spreadsheets in front of you, which reflect June 30th, 2021 and June 30th of 2022. The town of Roseville allocated $24,000 towards the MOU expenditures for fiscal year ending 6/31. To date, we have received all those funds, and all those funds have been allocated and spent. So that was for fiscal period ending 6/30/2021. On your second page here, especially for the current fiscal period ending June 30th, 2022. Again, the town had allocated another $24,000 of the MOU for expenditures. To date, the chamber has billed and received the $24,000. Of that $24,000, the chamber has spent a total of $7,380. The chamber currently has a total of $16,620 of the town monies received that has not been spent. We currently do have a separate bank account that we keep that money in, so that way that money is not being commingled with our operating funds. The total right now, the amounts that we receive from the town is approximately about 21% of our overall budget and approximately about 25% of our actual expenses. So that is all I have for you today. Any questions?
Do you know where the barbecue and bands is going to be located this year?
We don't. We're still trying to figure that out. Rachel was saying something about, not having them do the judges and trying to find someone to actually cook all the food. So we're still trying to figure that out. Mm-hmm.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you,
That's all?
Terry.
Okay.
Appreciate you giving us an update. Thank you
Okay,
for coming.
thank you.
I know the chamber does a great job, and y'all get a lot of turnout on your Thursday night events. So
Yeah, I mean, we're still coming out of COVID, so I think people are a little bit hesitant, about things. But I mean, we're still going to continue to plan and just move forward as best as we can. So.
right.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Okay, next item, public to be heard. Is there any sign-ups for that particular item? And this is, anybody want to speak on any topic that is not pretty much on the agenda? If it's a public hearing or some type on the agenda, then naturally we'll get you up. We'll get you up on there. So this is a like I say, anything that's not on the agenda. Liz May, if you want to come up, state your name and address, and 3 minutes is kind of what we limit public.
Okay, that's fine.
Public.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Liz May. I guess you've got my address, 1416 Carrie May Lane. And I wanted to talk to you in general about neighborhood meetings, about how and when they are conducted, who attends, and ways to ensure the notes taken give a complete picture of the meeting. In the last 4 years, I have been to or listened to 4 neighborhood meetings in 2 different municipalities and then read the notes submitted for the town boards. In my opinion, only one of the 4 gave a really fair summary about how the meetings progressed. Questions and requests of the neighbors and the developer's response to those questions. Things were added that were not said. Things were not recorded that were said. And I realize these are notes and not minutes, but who decides what to include and what not to include? So how and when the meetings are conducted is important. Most towns do include a requirement for neighborhood meetings. And why do they require them? Well, I think you'll agree that the purpose of these meetings is, as another town stated, to allow the applicant to explain the project and be informed of neighbors' concerns. It also states that these meetings shall be held after staff's first review and prior to resubmitting to the town for a second review. I think you will agree that it is the unspoken hope of towns and commissioners that the developers will take into consideration some of the concerns of the neighbors. So it seems that these meetings serve a good purpose. Unfortunately, they're not always done really well. After a little research on this subject, I found articles from 2 different sources about another town's neighborhood meeting that was conducted in February of this year. It was reported that an attorney told a group of neighbors that the only reason they were having it is because it was required. As you can imagine, that crowd of over 100 were very unhappy because the developer refused to discuss the issues again, even though the project had been flagged by the town staff on 114 items that had not yet been addressed. Questions like density, clear cutting, tree preservation, floodplains, etc. I think it was reasonable that the neighbors wanted some answers to these questions, especially because these representatives even admitted they didn't have the answers. So I have some suggestions for this board that I hope might be helpful, because I've heard your frustrations and you have heard ours, that it is tiresome trying to get information from the developers. Sometimes it's like pulling teeth from a chicken. 1, neighborhood meetings are important, so please continue to require them. 2, in addition to the summaries of the meetings, ask that a statement or questionnaires from neighbors might be submitted asking if they felt like their questions had been answered or followed up on. Were they being good neighbors? This could enable board members to ask some follow-up questions if they so choose. 3, ask that the neighbors within 500 feet be notified of meetings. I think it's like 200, 250 now. 4, ask that these meetings be held after staff's first review and before resubmitting to the town for a second review, allowing time for real concerns to be addressed by the developers and the town staff. Thank you for your time and service.
Thank you, Ms. May. Appreciate it. Thank you for your comments. And Yeah, Kelly, I think the only thing I would say is maybe ask Meredith to cover this in a future workshop, maybe. I can't remember even what we participate. I know the commissioners don't usually go to these things for reason not to get embedded in it with the developer, but maybe a kind of update of what happens at those things, and maybe one of the future work sessions we have with the planning director there. So thank you for coming out. And that's the only one I have signed up. Not seeing anybody else sign up for the public to be heard. We will look at the consent agenda. There's 4 items on the consent agenda. One has the minutes. Item 2 we covered in the work session last time with the Roseville Fire Department truck loan, capital project ordinance 3, and the Wade Avenue subdivision, Polka Homes, which was a so any comments on that, or if not, I will entertain a motion to approve
have a
the consent agenda. Okay.
I'm trying to remember, because I thought there was town representation at the community meetings, but I can't remember if that continued. Is there currently?
We'll get some clarity. Let's get prepared, and we'll get some clarity.
So nobody can just answer that question now, if there is or is not?
I don't think I don't go to them. I don't think none of us goes to them. It may be somebody from the planning department that goes to them. I don't know. No, nobody from the
I
planning.
would like for her to answer that question. Because I know that when I first got on the board, there was representation, but then I thought something changed.
Okay. And I may need let me restate the question to make sure I understood it, because there was a big rumble when there was some of the discussion. So it sounds like you were asking if staff attends the neighborhood meetings. Staff does not attend the neighborhood meetings. It's the applicant and neighbors.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Meredith. Appreciate that. Okay, back to the item on the agenda, consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve? Is there a second? All right, so I got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any? Thank you. Appreciate that, board. Thank you very much. First item on the board action, it's not really an action, it's just an update on our Main Street LAP grant. I think we had some bids, and and this is an ever-changing thing. I think it changed even today, some perspective on it, my understanding.
So good evening, Mayor and Town Board. This is going to be a very brief update. We're not here to give any recommendations. We're here to tell you status and where we are and then what we're doing over the next 30 days. Just to remind you that you are considering a Main Street grant project. And just real briefly, that this is something that came out of your vision plan that you worked on about 5 years ago and adopted through a large community input process. And it held out the following principles of making sure that we are building a safe, new Main Street that includes all multimodal opportunities. It's attractive for adjacent land areas, and that we're seeking quality development associated with this project. And you all took that and decided to take parts of that, not the full thing, but a good part of it, and seek a grant application that we sought for and made successful application for. And we're able to attain over $4 million in federal money for this grant application, 80% match, and we are matching at 20%. And I just want to remind ourselves that if you remember, that application period was pretty competitive for funding through the federal, for Campo, who administers this program, this LAP program. And our project was ranked #1 through that and received the most money through that also, that time. And so we were very successful in attaining that. Our budget estimate was based upon going through and picking out that grant, that plan, and developing the plan out to about 30% design and coming up with a dollar amount that we thought we could build a project for 2.5 years ago. So just a quick reminder that the plan is trying to make it easier for travelers to get where we need to go, encouraging all uses of different alternative forms of transportation. It's building more sustainable communities. It's increasing connectivity between neighborhoods, streets, and transit systems. And it's improving, like I said, pedestrians, cyclists, and motorists. So when we talk about this project, it's just not about vehicles. It's about pedestrians. It's talking about making it better, safer intersections and how we're doing that on our main street. And so when we did that, we also knew that there was interest in development opportunities associated with this. And since then, as you know, you've approved 2 large developments on both ends of this project. Cobblestone project, which is bringing about $55 million investment on one end at Young and Main, and then Walbrook on the other end, which is bringing over $70 million investment into their site, including what we talked about and Michael talked about, Publix and other associated projects. So it ended up being very successful in stimulating interest and such like that in anticipation of this project. So this then slide kind of just briefly goes through the major highlights of where we have been for the last 3 years. We did the application in 2019, and we applied to Campo for the application, and we were announced and awarded the funds in February of 2020. A month later, pandemic or thereabouts, so we're in the middle of pandemic hits. And things kind of grinded to a different speed. And we had to go through different ways of designing, having meetings and such. And even though at the time we wanted to go to bid September 21, the project took a little bit longer to design, go through approvals and such like that. And we also know that we had to go through, and as we got down to refinements of the project, we had to attain additional right-of-way. We took some condemnation act, and we also do additional design work. But ultimately, we got there, and we started going further. And we also then brought on another firm who's going to help us, RK&K Engineering, that's going to help oversee the project. And then one last final step we did in February of 2022 this year is we entered into a reimbursement agreement which formalized a partnership with Walbrook as part of this project. So as we went down this path, we realized, and Walbrook did, that it might be mutually benefit to have them participate in the project also and go ahead and include their improvements that they would be required to do when they built there and developed there as part of this project. And so they followed also all the same guidelines we did as part of our project, and DOT approved that and allowed that to be brought in. And so they've had to build everything to the same standard that we've had to build as part of this project. And we went to bid for the entire project that we estimated when we went to bid to be about $10 million. So we were already over our anticipated grant money that we got 2.5 years ago. And the results of the bid. So we went to bid, and the first thing we did, just so you know, and I forgot to mention prior to this, is that our bid date came and went because we only had 2 bidders. By federal law, use this money, you had to have 3 competitive bids submitted. And when I mean bids, they are sealed, right? When they walk in the door, and this, nobody knows what except for the bidder, knows what the dollar amount is for this project. We had 2 the original first day, which means we had to say that we had to stop the bid process and re-advertise and re-say there's another 21 days for anybody else to come bid, because we had to seek 3 and we only got 2. But then if you do the 21-day wait period, however many come in, you can open and have, so it could be 1, 2, 3, 5, and you can qualify and have bid opening. So 21 days later, we did our bid opening a week ago yesterday, and we had 2 bidders. And the low bidder is Fred Smith Company. If you recognize that name, they are the company that has been doing the 401 project between here and Lewisburg. They received that large contract. And quite frankly, it didn't surprise us that they bid because they're in the neighborhood doing things. And let's just make sure we don't have a tornado here. Okay, flash flood warning, so we'll watch ourselves. So the low bid, as you can see, is $16,910,002.50. Now the work starts. What happens next is we take that and we start going through it line item by line item. There were 180 line items to this project of quantities of things, from trees to asphalt to curb to street lights and such. And so we have to go through that to make sure the additions are done right and such. And we've completed that, and we found a $20 mistake on our behalf. So the good news, they added pretty closely. Now we're also going through, and part of our project says that we bid the town project and we bid the Rolesville project separate. And we said in the bid that if you gave different cost prices for the two, even though the same product, but if you did pricing difference, the lower one would be used for the entire project. And so we're doing that analysis, and it appears there are a few that they did different lower prices, so we're going to take that and come up with a new number, but it's not much. It's probably less than $40,000. So there will be a different number, ultimately, what the low bid will be. It'll be a little bit different than that number there. But you can see how the project's broken down. So the town project is what our lap project is. The ADA ramp we added in this project. NCDOT was doing ADA ramps, as you know, throughout the town. They were going to do Main Street as part of that project when they originally, and we added it to this project, so it'd be one instead of having done in advance and then come back and redo them. So we've added that to the project. Walbrook portion of the project is $4,750,000, and then non-reimbursables are things that federal money will not pay for. Landscaping, benches, trash receptacles, and such that kind of complete the project in our mind in many ways. So there's the number. Let me catch up to myself and make sure I'm touching on everything else. So what are we doing now? We are in the middle of taking a look at everything. We're taking a look at how this bid was presented, and then more importantly, how are we going to continue with this project? Because we know that we are probably over our estimate. We are over our estimate and such like that. There are a couple of good pieces of information that we're working on that should help us in this process. First is Campo in their LAP project anticipates this occurring. They anticipate knowing that there will be overages or differences based upon the original grant approval. And they allow the applicant to go back to them and seek additional funding. Now, instead of 80-20, it's 50-50. So our first conversation is with Campo and making sure that we have a good number that we can go seek. And what we need to do is come up with a total dollar amount that we are over and beyond from our grant to this project, and then come back to them and say we are hoping to receive 50%. Today I had a great conversation with the director of Campo, and he's gave me very positive news that it'll still be well received. The dollar amount is not exceeding their amount that they can provide and such. We do have to make the requests, and we have to go through their protocol. Their protocol is that we have to go in front of their technical review committee. They have a group that reviews this and everything else for Campo. That meeting is on August 4th. And then it has to go in front of the Campo board, in which the mayor sits on, and that meeting is on August 19th. So we have, and they don't meet in July. So we have, those are our two times that we have to get in front of Campo to make a request for the dollar amount that we're seeking. And so if you anticipate that they will participate in that, and we've already done 2 other asks. We did 1 ask of DOT already, saying, are there additional funds? And response has been from DOT directly, not Campo, but DOT's funds. No, there are no funds from DOT. We also did an ask of our Representative Everett, because we got this number the day the budget went to Governor Cooper for the state. I said, hey, and he did check with Governor Cooper and said, too late for this year. But I think we can think about something for next year's budget, potentially not involved in this project, but I think we ought to seek potential state money in other ways due to this consideration. So we are right now in the middle of doing the numbers. I can tell you that we believe our range of shortfall, as we know it today, based upon all your approvals and everything, the grant and prior approvals, is a range of about $1.5 million to $2 million for what we will need to bring after Campo's 50-50 share. I don't want you to hold me 100% accountable for that number, because we're really doing the numbers and making sure we're verifying that.
Does that have any contingency in it?
Does have 10%.
Okay.
So you said $1 million to $2 million.
$1.5 million to $2 million is the
$1.5 million
range.
to $2 million. So is the shortage $4 million?
No, shortage is even more than that. Campo is going to participate a little bit more because we're going to consider the whole project, including Walbrook's.
Not just the 50/50.
Right.
Gotcha.
So what I am going to do for you is, well, and there's one last piece to this I need to talk to you about, and that's the partnership piece. So we have Campo, we have DOT, State of North Carolina, I talked about, we have Walbrook. So Representative Walbrook was here during the bid opening and saw the bid prices. And their price went up too, their share went up significantly. They are about 3 weeks away from opening their bids on their private infrastructure. So as we did this, they put out their project out for bid to contractors also for all the roads, water, sewer, all that. They are not saying they're committed to the project yet because they need to see what those numbers are. Because they need to do their number crunching too. And their Campo's banks and such, right? And so they're trying to figure out what their difference is, what they had already budgeted in their private budget for the development, what the difference could be, and they're going to come back and tell us their answer in 3 weeks, what they hopefully are still going to do the project. But I do want to tell you, they are not saying they're going to yet because they need to see their numbers. So we have to wait about 2 to 3 weeks for them. We will work on our side with the assumptions numbers we have, knowing, and our expectation is we're going to bring to you how you can do this. We're also going to bring to you other options if you are so inclined to look at other options. But we believe that this project's doable. We believe it's been your top priority project. And we're going to bring to you a recommendation how to do that. But obviously then if you have options, we'll bring other options too. Recognize that we also have to August 28th to take some action unless we seek some more time with the contractor. The bids are good for 60 days. The bids are non-negotiable. Per federal guidelines and regulations, the bid is the bid. And we'll talk to you about how you can modify that if the contractor is so inclined after you accept the bid. But it does take the contractor saying they're willing to do that. So we have contractor discussions, we have Campo discussions, we have Walbrook discussions, we have internal discussions going on, trying to put together this puzzle. And I hope in 2 to 3 weeks, I'm going to provide you some information that'll give you some answers. And then by August 2nd, we can talk again and see where we all are on this.
So I just want to clarify something. So Walbrook's cost went up based on the bid?
It did.
I thought they had a set number for some reason.
No, they are equally as much in, this is an entire project. So their segment went to the bid too.
I didn't realize that.
I think last week when I was looking at the numbers, I was kind of set back. This week, I'm much more optimistic. I had a great conversation, like I said, with the Campo director, and I feel comfortable that they're going to come through with some good funding. It's now just Walbrook, and we make sure we agree with what I just said as far as what we can do or not. That's my update. Feel free to call anytime, ask any questions. I may not know the answer quite yet. We're going to give you good information in a week or two.
Now's a good time to take up an offering.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, Kelly, very
Thanks,
good.
Kelly.
And, I think, the experts, I guess, Kelly, what I was hearing, the experts was saying that in today's environment, everything was going to be about
Yeah.
30 to 50% more.
I really do appreciate you bringing
It
that
ended
up.
up being 60, though, didn't it, Kelly?
So there are some that have said, including Walbrook, that in the 60-day period this was out, everything went up price-wise 30 to 50%. Walbrook was going to be happy if it was a 30% increase over what the engineer's estimate is. They were not surprised by the number. They just weren't. That doesn't mean they had the money, just sitting there, but they weren't surprised by the money, the number. So that's just where we are.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Appreciate that. Okay. The first item on the agenda is a public hearing, MA 21-08 and ANX 22-02 Byram property. I will open the public hearing and ask the staff for introduction there.
Thank you. For your consideration this evening is
I think the rain,
Can
can we
you-
get the volume up a little bit higher with the rain going on?
I'll move the microphone a little closer. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So for your consideration this evening is a rezoning request and an annexation petition. The applicant is JA2GA LLC. The property is 12.43 acres, and the request is to change the zoning from Hvac County Highway District to Residential High Conditional Zoning District. And like I said, there's a contiguous voluntary annexation petition along with the rezoning request. The subject property is located on the north side of Waite Avenue or Highway 98, just west of the intersection with Everett Road. The current zoning district is Hvac County Highway District. As I mentioned, the applicant is proposing to change the zoning district to Residential High Conditional Zoning District. The Hvac County Highway District is a low-density residential district with a maximum density of 1.45 units per acre. And I looked this up in Hvac County's Unified Development Ordinance just so we could understand what it is right now. It allows a wide range of non-residential uses by right, as well as others with a special use permit. For example, a neighborhood or convenience retail store with a gas station is permitted by right, and vehicle repair or service with sales or leasing would require a special use permit from Hvac County. So Town of Rolesville Residential High District is for single-family attached or multifamily dwellings, and it implements the high-density residential future land use at a density range of 6 to 12 units per acre, and that's the description from our land development ordinance. The applicant has included a concept plan as well as 4 proposed zoning conditions with this rezoning application. So the application includes conditions to limit the units to 52. The applicant is proposing to provide a 6-foot-high opaque fence around the perimeter of the property. They're offering set construction and blasting hours, and they've noted that the perimeter fence will be continuous where the street stub is shown. And that is right here. As per our comprehensive plan, future land use map, the future land use category is not designated for this property. We looked at the adjacent category, which is medium-density residential, and that is single-family attached or detached housing at a density of 3 to 5 units per acre. So as per our community transportation plan, Waite Avenue is identified as a variable width right-of-way with a median, curb and gutter, and side path, and no traffic impact analysis was required. The applicant provided a trip generation letter stating the proposed development would add 365 daily trips or 30 AM peak hour trips and 54 peak PM hour trips. And again, our threshold for a traffic impact analysis is 1,000 daily trips or 100 peak hour trips. And we're talking about that, reducing that for LDO round 3. So when staff looked at this request, we saw the applicants proposing a density of 4.21 units per acre. And if we consider that medium density residential land use category, the dwelling type that's being proposed, the single family attached, and the density 4.21 units per acre does fall in line with the medium density residential category. And the transportation network appears to have some flexibility in making future connections, and I'll point that out on a map in just a moment. And then some cons with this request. The LDO requires a type 3 perimeter buffer around this site, and that includes a 6-foot high wall and landscape materials. And the applicant's proposed condition to provide a fence, opaque fence around the property seems like it might not work as well as what's in the LDO. And also, staff believes it's difficult to determine if an adequate transition can be made in this situation. Again, we'll look at a graphic to talk about that further. So in our land development ordinance, a perimeter buffer type 3 is illustrated here. Again, it's a 6-foot high wall and landscape materials, and where you see property line written here and also on this side, that's where the adjoining property the adjoining property would be, and then the existing development would be on the other side. I overlaid the concept plan over an aerial photograph so you could see what it might look like off of Highway 98. And when I talk about making a transition between proposed and existing development, transitions can be made with space, distance between uses. It can be made with landscape materials to create a visual buffer and a wall like what is required with the type 3 perimeter buffer. And a transition can also be made through architecture. If architectural elements are repeated or the massing of buildings there's not too much of a contrast between what's close together, it can feel a little more comfortable. So when looking in this area, this is this neighborhood on the left side of the slide is in Wake Forest. But if you notice, there is green space between this road and Highway 98. And the distance from the back of these lots to the street is about 150 feet. And even though you look at these homes, they're fairly close together and are of a greater density than what's around it. Because of this landscape area between the neighborhood and the street and what's around it, I think it feels okay. So that's an illustration of some space and some landscape material. So with this layout, I know it could be challenging to figure out if that land development ordinance buffer will provide enough of a separation between what's proposed and what's there. And I'm happy to answer questions about that too. I'm getting some interesting looks. At the planning board meeting a month or so ago, the planning board unanimously recommended denial of this request. Discussion focused on the type of residential dwellings, and they were concerned about rock blasting, which does happen in most of Rolesville. And they talked about the design aspects of the buildings and the trip generation. I believe their main concern had to do with the density and the product type fitting in with the surrounding area, and I believe that's why they recommended denial of the request. Our land development ordinance in Appendix A includes 8 rezoning review standards. These are different from findings of fact that we look at during evidentiary hearings. These are not items where someone has to prove each one is met. These are to create a framework for you to help you make a decision for a rezoning request. So some things to consider when considering this rezoning request: is it consistent with the comprehensive plan? Does it meet the LDO? Is it correcting any errors? Is it compatible with the existing and surrounding land? Is there adequate infrastructure with roadways and utilities? Will it result in a logical and orderly development pattern? Will it create any adverse impacts on the environment? And if it's a conditional rezoning, are the impacts of that development being addressed? So that concludes staff's presentation.
Meredith, I have a question.
Certainly.
On that last slide that you just had up there, are those review standards that the planning board takes into consideration when they're also looking at this?
Yes, anyone looking at the rezoning
Okay,
can consider that, yes.
thank you.
Any other questions at the moment?
I'm not sure I completely follow the buffering
Okay, let's go back.
on there. And also, I guess the question, you pointed out that other one across the road was, had more space. So, most of the ones we see has a buffer in front of it. I think your neighborhood does. And the new one across the street there, Chandler's Ridge, they have the berms and the trees and stuff. So is this, don't have that? Doesn't have any buffering on the streetscape?
This concept plan does not yet illustrate the landscape materials, and I'm sure when the applicant speaks, they can give a little more
About the
information.
distance, then.
But when they submit their site plan to us, they will have to show all the landscaping and other information on it. It is hard to visualize right now with this particular concept plan since it doesn't show the landscape materials. Did you have another question about the perimeter buffer?
I guess, if I understand right, is a con putting the buffer in?
I was recommending that the condition 2 be removed. I think what's in the land development ordinance is better than what's being proposed by the applicant, and plus we would have to follow the land development ordinance anyway when reviewing the development plan.
Okay. So it's not removing the buffer altogether? it's
No,
just-
removing just the condition about providing a 6-foot opaque fence. I think
Gotcha.
a wall would create a better barrier. Yes, it would be around, I'll use my mouse, that would be required. I'll trace it here, here, and here.
Is this submittal in place of a previous submittal?
Yes, I believe I have which one it was.
And if you did have the units that were on the previous submittal?
Don't have it with me. I believe the density was closer to 7 or 8 units per acre, and I know the applicant confirmed that. And right now, they're proposing 4.2 units per acre.
Thank you.
There's no green space, right?
I know a few residents, or adjacent Wake County residents, have provided a PowerPoint presentation that they would like to share when they're called to speak, and I said I would bring that up for them. If it is all right, I'll bring that up for you all.
Be fine.
Any other questions right now?
Any other questions for staff?
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. We'll allow the applicant to present.
Mayor Kern, thank you. Happy to present. I think the neighbors have a PowerPoint. I'm happy to let them go since it's up, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. can call the neighbors up?
You what now?
Do you want to call the neighbors up to give their presentation?
So are you?
I can present now, or I can wait till the neighbors get them. They have a PowerPoint.
Usually we get the applicant first.
Okay, no problem.
Then we get any opposition, unless the neighbors are for it. We usually get the applicants and the pros first, and then we'll do any opposition.
Absolutely. I'm happy to go that route. Sorry for the confusion. And good evening, Mayor Curran, Mayor Pro Tem Vilga, and members of the Board of Commissioners. My name is Neil Ghosh. I'm an attorney with the Morningstar Law Group in Raleigh, and I'm representing the applicant for this rezoning. And with me tonight is Mr. John Frazier with FLM Engineering. I want to start first by thanking Ms. Gruber for her presentation and guidance on this rezoning. My understanding is that the owner previously filed a rezoning for this property, which they withdrew about a year ago because they didn't feel they had support. I was not involved with that project, and in fact, I was brought in after the fact to try to help bring forward a better plan. Now, I'm going to level with you. This case has taken me for somewhat of a loop. The property is about 12.5 acres. On the previous case, they were proposing 77 townhomes, which was just over 6 dwelling units per acre. That project got a recommendation of approval from the planning board, but the applicant withdrew that rezoning case before this body had a chance to vote on it. Now, we have revamped the project to address some of the concerns area residents expressed previously. One of the major concerns was the number of proposed units. We have dropped it from 77 to 52, which is a density of 4.2 dwelling units per acre. And that also makes this project consistent with the designation of the closest properties on the town's future land use map. It's an over 30% reduction in the number of units. What absolutely stunned me is that somehow making the project more consistent with the town's comprehensive plan, reducing the number of units to address concerns from area residents, and providing a product which caters to folks with mobility issues or the elderly, somehow doing all of those things made this project worse in the eyes of the planning board, which recommended denial this time around. Honestly, in my years as a land use attorney, I've never seen that happen before. Objectively, this is a better project than the one previously proposed. Fewer units, less traffic, full bedroom suite on the main floor, kitchen, laundry, dining. Where possible, we're providing no stairs to the main floor entrance, and that addresses the needs of older buyers, folks with mobility issues, or just folks looking to age in place, buy a house and stay there forever. This is the type of project that I think, a town that has an ever-growing demand for housing like Roseville will need. Which brings me to my next point. What is good for Rolesville? To my knowledge, this project has not had any opposition from folks who live in Rolesville. Now, we have not ignored our neighbors in the county. We've met with them. We have adjusted our initial plans to address some of their concerns. But they do live in the county, and they chose not to be in Rolesville, which is the opposite of what we are doing. We have applied for annexation into the town's jurisdiction. So as you consider this rezoning, I think it's important to take into account what will be best for Roseville. You all are elected officials, so you know better than most that growth is hard. But acting like the town is not growing is not a recipe for success. Letting the interests of folks in the county dictate what goes on in Roseville seems counterintuitive to me. They may not want denser housing near them, but they do live next to a growing town, across the street from a school, along a major thoroughfare. I can't think of a better place for housing in Rolesville, and this is not a super dense project. At 4.2 units per acre, we are at medium density. So back to the question of what is best for Rolesville. My client here is a residential developer. They want to build homes here, so much so that they are back in front of you again for a second concept. But they have assured me that they will not be back a third time. The current zoning on the property is Hvac County Highway District. Admittedly, this is probably the oddest zoning district that I've ever come across. It allows for a range of uses from residential to auto-oriented businesses, for lack of a better term. If this property is not rezoned tonight, my clients likely will not be the ones developing it, but it will be developed in the county's jurisdiction, likely for a commercial use. Without access to water and sewer, obviously the intensity of development will be somewhat limited, but my firm works with convenience store operators, self-storage outfits, all types of commercial businesses across the state which have made sites like this work on well and septic. So we think this site is viable for those types of uses. Personally, I think it would be a shame for this property to go in that direction. This is an ideal site for new houses. Technically, these are townhomes, but you can see that they are set up in a duplex format. When you drive by, these are going to look like one big house instead of like 5 townhomes grouped together like you see in a lot of other townhome projects. Aesthetically, this looks like large, single-family, detached housing, but really, these will be nice townhomes that will be more affordable than a lot of the single-family detached houses being built in Rolesville today. Now, I don't know if that sounds like a good or a bad thing to you, but keep in mind that these homes cater to elderly folks and folks with mobility issues. So you've got to ask yourself, where are elderly folks going to live in the new Rolesville? These aren't cheap, I'm not trying to tell you that, but not everyone can afford a $600,000 home or above, especially if they're on a fixed income like a lot of retirees. Finally, you should consider what this project means for Roseville. If the property is not rezoned, in all likelihood, it's going to be developed in the county's jurisdiction for commercial use. That could mean more traffic than what this project would generate, which, as reported, would not be much to begin with. It could mean that there would be an incompatible use along this corridor. And it definitely will mean that the town will forego the potential tax-based boost that this project represents. If each of these townhomes sells for only $300,000, you're talking about over $15 million in tax base. Compare that to $0 in tax base when this site is developed in the county's jurisdiction. I think that's important. To me, the choice is clear. Rolesville is growing. Roseville needs housing, and this is a good spot for houses. This is not a good spot for a gas station, though with an average 15,000 pass-by trips a day, I'm sure one would do just fine here. But I think the point here is twofold. One, this is a good project. It certainly is better than what previously was proposed. And I think it shows, that the applicant here has been willing to listen to feedback and try to adjust their plans accordingly. And two, this is by far better than the alternative. It may not be perfect, but let's not let great be the enemy of perfect. Everyone will be better off if this site is built for houses. This case has been anything but predictable, so I look forward to your feedback. Our team is available to answer questions. I know the neighbors have a presentation. We'll be taking notes. I don't know if we'll have an opportunity to respond, but I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it. Before we take any questions, Robin, can you see if anybody signed up to speak in favor or opposition? Is only one? Okay. It doesn't really say favor or opposition, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 9 total. So I'm going to allow all 9 to speak at 3 minutes apiece at the max. So, so is anyone on this list that signed up of the 9, any of you in favor? I'll take you first. Not seeing any? Okay. I think Max Stillman is the first one. 3 minutes, please.
Or would it be less than that? I'm Max Stillman, and my property adjoins this project on the west side. We've got a unique situation that my property and this property have a joint driveway easement. It's kind of different. And I would like to see that, of course, retained. I'm going to lose half my driveway. And then as we go down the property line, about the first 200 feet, I have 27, 28-year-old Leland cypress, which are tremendous by this time. And technically speaking, the limbs encroach across where the property line is, so I would like them to be protected as well. And then the stub road on the backside, when it stops the property line, I think there'd been some talk about moving that to the wall side, which would be fabulous with me. And these are basically, I'm just rehashing the things that I had from the last proposal. And lastly, I guess the density of this place just doesn't seem to fit to me on the north side of 98. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Stillman. Sandy Matthews?
Good evening. Thank you for your time. My name is Sandy Matthews, and I own the property that is to the north of the Barham lands. I'm going to discuss some of the review standards. Standard 1, I believe this application is inconsistent with the town's plans. The comp plan recommends encouraging higher density growth in certain locations. An example in the plan suggested creating a new zoning district in the downtown and Main Street corridor. This highlights an understanding of the need for higher density housing in areas where people are able to easily access local event, retail establishments, etc. Roseville transportation and bike plans emphasize the need for consideration of alternative transportation options when allowing development of neighborhoods, connected streets, bike path, pedestrian sidewalks, possible bus stops. This neighborhood would be its own small enclave. Pedestrian and bicyclists would have nowhere to go but in their neighborhood. Highway 98 will not become a 5-lane highway until 2045 if there is available funding. Standard 2, this application does conflict with the LDO and other ordinances. LDO 3.1 states that residential zoning districts are intended to create neighborhoods that preserve existing character while allowing for new compatible development. The Barham lots are large lots, each having a single-family detached home consistent with adjoining lots. If one considers the properties across Highway 98, those are smaller lots but still single-family detached homes. A request for high-density zoning does not preserve the existing character or provide compatible development. Section 3.3 states that conditions and standards imposed for conditional zoning shall be standards above and beyond requirements of the LDO. They may not lessen the standards. The request for high-density zoning on its own lessens the standards for 3.1. The developer's request for a Type 2 fence lessens the standards for Section 6.2. The location of the fence on the property line lessens the standards for 6.2 again. Section D of the Fire Code states that developments with more than 30 dwelling units must provide 2 separate and approved fire apparatus access roads. There is 1 access road and 52 dwelling units. There's a lack of details on the Hammerhead alternative, so I honestly don't know if it's compliant with the Fire Code. Standard 4 says zoning. As stated earlier, this zoning is not compatible with low-density residential zoning use of the properties to the east, west, and north. To the south, the zoning is medium density for a neighborhood of a much greater magnitude. Even then, the townhomes are located towards the center of the neighborhood, of which they are a part, and not at the outer edge. Standard 7, this development would adversely impact the wildlife, vegetation, and natural functioning of the environment. The eastern portion is heavily forested and home to various wildlife. The trees are decades old, primarily hardwood and of great size. A common theme in Roseville's various plans is the preservation of natural areas. The developer's intent here is to decimate these areas. Consequences of removing or damaging trees that are to be saved rarely deter such events from happening. We have an opportunity to save the homes of wildlife and preserve an open space that is beneficial to the environment and community. This morning, I took photos, raccoons, deer. I see those every day when I walk out my door. I would respectfully request that an RL zoning classification is the appropriate zoning for this combined lot, as it allows for compatibility with surrounding lots and also provides the town of Roseville the opportunity to balance their responsibility for the safety and well-being of its residents with their desire to ensure environmental protection of wildlife and vegetation and their desire to support and encourage responsible economic development. And yes, I'm a Wake County resident. I would love to be a part of the town of Roseville. I never can. I would be Wake Forest. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Ms. Matthews. Liz May, I think you up again, huh?
So, thank you for allowing me to speak again. So I'd like to continue speaking to this board about neighborhood meetings. Remember when I spoke about a neighborhood meeting where the attorney angered a group of neighbors when he told them the reason for the meeting was because it was required? I don't know what that says to you, but what it says to me is we will do what is required to get through the process, but are only looking to do what is best for us. But you could ask Mr. Ghosh because he's the attorney that said that. Now, I would like to focus on the neighborhood meeting that was held for this project. But I will tell you, I was not available to attend this meeting, but I have listened to the recording of the meeting several times. The representative said several times, we will check, we will ask, we will get back to you. Well, they didn't on these items like, would they be open to a traffic study even though it wasn't required? How were they going to protect Max's trees? Could the fence be moved? Could AC units be placed in areas less likely to disturb our neighborhood? Just to mention a few. And there was problems with the summary notes. No notes were recorded on Mr. Ghosh's opening statement, which was the scare tactics about the convenience store. We also noticed that the developer had strategically listed that this was an age-targeted community on the plan, when in fact it's just townhomes with downstairs masters. They wanted to lead us and to you believe that they were helping senior citizens. When asked about why the fence was moved, they blamed the town and stated the town asked them to move it. Now I got to thinking, why would the town say that? That's not what the LDO says. So I went back and read the town's communication with the developer. They were asked to contact Hvac Electric and find out if they were okay with the fence, that's where Max's trees are, being in their easement. The town also had questions about how the buffer would be maintained. Here's what the developer said. The fence has been moved to the easement and property line. The fence has been moved to the property line so that the buffer can be maintained. So there you go. I don't even know if they contacted Hvac Electric. Important discussion was omitted. A complaint came up after a question was asked about tree survey and preservation plans, but nothing was noticed about the concerns over trees being removed after their petition was withdrawn last year, or their response to us that we were told by Mr. Adams that it was just a cleanup because they were going to rent the two houses already on the property. Well, both houses have been rented for quite a while, and I'm telling you, it was more than cleanup. These are things that should have had some follow-up or at least have been noted. Maybe if included in the meeting's notes, they would have been more inclined to follow through and give answers to some of those questions. So I spoke earlier about how to improve neighborhood meetings and the summary notes. Well, my hope is that the suggestions for changes might help the vetting process, put the developers on notice, and allow this board to ask important questions of them if you so choose. You have given the neighbors the right to ask questions, and so to the developers, we say you have an obligation to the town to answer the questions and listen to concerns and be a good neighbor. If you believe in the project and think it's a good fit, then go for it. Mr. Adams bought this property to make a profit by squeezing in as many homes as possible. He's a developer, and he should have known better. This project doesn't belong in this location. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Ms. May. Joe Haggerty?
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, thank you for giving us this opportunity to address you on the subject. Actually, Sandy brought up a lot of the same things that I would mention. I would indicate a couple more. And as I recall, I think the original application was for 99 units when it started. But anyway, it's gone down since the beginning. Part of the conditions or part of the plan is for a dog park to be located close to Carrie May Lane, which is, I'm sorry, I should have said, I live at 1417 Carrie May Lane, which is adjacent to that property. And dog park with the noise and the disruption is probably not the best use of that. A suggestion might be just for an open area or maybe a playground or something might be better. Also on the construction activity We'd prefer there not be blasting on Saturdays, Sundays, or holidays. I think that would be reasonable.
Did you say Saturday? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Saturday, Sunday, and holidays for no blasting. And also that I understand that there's been problems with people's property resulting from blasting around the area, which we know that there's a lot of that goes on. So we'd like to request that pre-blasting inspections of dwelling structures, particularly also wells and septic tanks, be made available for anybody within 250 feet of the property at no charge upon request. Understand that it's hard to prove any kind of damages unless there's a pre-inspection that says, you know, the cracks weren't there or the problem didn't exist prior to the beginning of the blasting. As already been pointed out, the developer proposed a fence which did not comply with the LDO, and that was pointed out a couple of times. And also they were asked if they complied with the LDO, and they indicated that they had. But as we read it, of course, and as the planning staff indicated, a wall is required, and the wall should be located not on the property line. So that would also help to address Mr. Steelman's issue with the Leland cypress trees if that wall is located not on the property line, close to the trees. So I'd like also a condition that those trees be preserved along that border and not damaged in any way by the new development buffer or wall that's put in there. The dead-end road and fire code compliance, I also am certainly no expert on it. The way I read it, it looks like that 2 exits are required, and I guess that means having the DOT approve it or not, and I don't know if the DOT will allow 2 exits to the development, but I certainly want somebody to look closely at the regulations that for the fire code to make sure that everything is in compliance with the road and the exits in that area. Also, it was mentioned about the wildlife. Myself and the Kirchhoffs have lately been identifying birds, and we've come up with over 50 species of birds in our area. So, I mean, this is single-family home area, and wildlife in this development does not look consistent with that. So those would be my requests for you to consider. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Ellen, is it Winnell? Say that right? Probably botched it. Winnell?
Hey, I live at 1420 Carrie May Lane, and we really appreciated you guys denying this last year, and we hope we get the same result. I wanted to talk about a couple different things. The tree buffers, there is already a natural tree buffer already there without fence, with mainly slow-growing hardwoods, oak trees, things like that. Our concern is we are all on septic, and we also have to have our alternate septic field. Even what they were proposing last year was gentle giant arborvitae, which are fast-growing invasive to septic systems. We did suggest to them about leaving the natural vegetation there, but then it's not going to be, you know, all your evergreens and everything that are totally going to block out the view. We also are totally against the fence right on the property line. We had talked about a wall. So our concern is, even if they take out other trees, things like that, even if they put back native trees, we're afraid of them putting back a faster growing with invasive root systems that then, when the developer is long gone, damage our septic systems. I did bring up at the neighborhood meeting about the HVAC noise. You know, we're in a very quiet neighborhood. We like listening to the birds and everything. We do not want to hear the battle of the HVAC bands in our backyard. They just proposed, oh, we'll put them on the side of the house, but what if it's just on the side and the back? There was no assurance that anything was really going to be done to stop that noise into our backyards. Of course, somebody else brought up there's not going to be a lot of accessibility to downtown. Also, I work as a physical therapist since 1983. Many different facilities, been a clinic manager, and well over 20 years in home health. Part of my training, part of my education, part of what I do with patients is provide home modification suggestions. I'm involved when someone just gets a new diagnosis, maybe then they know their house is not good. They will ask me, what do I recommend? I would never recommend those houses. The garage is less than 20 feet wide with the 16-foot garage door. An average car is 5.8 feet wide. That does not give adequate room. A wheelchair is 30 inches wide. A standard walker is 24 inches wide, 25.5 with the rolling wheels, which most people have. A 19-foot driveway does not give adequate room to get a wheelchair up so they can adequately open the door to get in and out of the car. Unless something else has been changed, the original plan was for a 15-foot driveway. Well, if someone were to add a lift for a wheelchair on the back, that doesn't give out, the wheelchair's going to be, the wheelchair rack will be in the road. And people are going to have to be putting the wheelchair in the road if they're not doing it in the garage. Also, the garage is only 19 feet deep, so if they had a bigger car, that's not going to give adequate room if they want to put the wheelchair on in the garage to maneuver around and maneuver behind the car. Also, ADA guidelines for doorways are 32 inches. Really hard from the schematics, but in the bathroom, they have that toilet in that tiny little room, and it definitely looks like a 24-inch door on that. Then the hallway in front of the toilet would not allow for adequate room for a wheelchair to turn around so someone could get to the toilet, or for that walker with the wheels on front to get in. The only thing it has is the master on the main floor. All of us are large homes. We've put a lot of energy in our homes, a lot of additions, screen porches, extra garages. The positioning of these does not even give these people enough adequate room to maybe add their own screen porch or anything to the back as well. Also, with them being two-story, a 6-foot fence is not going to block those second-story windows from everybody staring down into our backyards. So I very much would be very pleased if you guys listened to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Christopher Tate, sorry. Christopher Tate. Yeah, if you would, state your name, address, and also 3 minutes, please.
Yep. Hi, I'm Chris Tate. I live at 1409 Carrie May Lane. It's adjacent to this proposed development. I agree with what all my neighbors are saying, but I'd like to speak specifically to the subject of traffic and the road infrastructure that exists today. First, I'd like to acknowledge that the proposed development doesn't trigger traffic impact analysis to be completed, but I do think the subject's relevant to the development of the surrounding areas and the anticipated challenges that this development will add to. As stated earlier, the Roseville Community Transportation Plan identifies Waite Avenue incorrectly as a variable width right-of-way with a median curb and gutter and side path. I think that's ultimately the long-term plan for this road, but I don't know if you've driven this section of road, but it's a single lane or 2-lane highway with no shoulder, no side path. So I'd like you guys to consider that when we're talking through some of these. So the proposed development will plan to widen the road as it goes through the development as part of the project, but it won't really provide any meaningful traffic impact until the full road is widened to 4 lanes as a part of the 98 corridor improvement plan. It's because of the short section between adjacent properties, the whole road won't be able to be widened. Given that this section of 98 is considered rural, it's priority 3, the lowest priority for this project, and the improvements are projected to occur in 2045 to 2050, which is roughly 25 years from now. With that in mind, I'd like to look more broadly at why this is important, or should be important, to the current and future communities around this area. There's a large development across Wade Avenue to the south that got approved. I think it's called former Thales, where the developer was required to complete a traffic impact analysis. And these results were provided back in June of last year. The results were pretty grim at best for folks hoping to turn on to 98 in the vicinity of this development, but it was approved anyways. I wanted to highlight some of the findings reading through that analysis. So this development is anticipated to add 9,838 daily trips. Keep in mind that it's still a single lane highway, and you heard the developer say earlier that it already endures 15,000 daily pass-throughs. So taking a look at the developer's proposed road improvements, which is on the screen here, the proposed improvements have the arrows with the black head. The only improvements that they are suggesting are left turn lanes into the development, while leaving stop signs for our community, and as well as all the other access points in and out of that development. So one question I ask when I look at this is, how will I ever be able to turn east from our driveway from a stop sign? I've got an added lane to worry about, and a lot more traffic. So the alternative is to turn west, but there's no provision for completing a U-turn. So there's essentially no good way to go to the east out of our development or anything on the north side of Carrie May Lane. And this problem will also plague the future development of this land. Another output of the traffic impact analysis is queue time, or how long you'd expect to wait to turn from one road onto another. In some phases of this development, the queue time exceeds 10,000 seconds, or 1,000 seconds, which is over 16 minutes for a single car to turn on to 98. It was noted several times in this impact analysis that it would be challenging for the folks on the north side of 98 to enter onto 98, but offer no mitigations. At best, our community is expected to have a 2-minute queue to leave our neighborhood if you believe that 9,800 additional daily trips only doubles our queue time. If you apply the same queue time to the new development, it's likely to cause a large backlog in the queue at peak hours, leaving residents lined up to safely enter 98. And to further make this story condemning, this traffic analysis doesn't account for any traffic added from Thales Academy, which is located on the northwest corner of Averett and 98. And this academy does not offer bus service, so we'll expect commuters to and from this location. And it also doesn't account for the 900 plus homes being developed just north of 98 off of Averett. Moving forward, myself and my neighbors would appreciate a more holistic assessment of traffic impact from developments in the area and the compounding effects that they have on traffic. At the high rate of development, we cannot only be looking at the traffic impacts of single developments. It's a pretty blind view. And we'd also appreciate considerations of the current to medium-term state of the infrastructure and the consequences of housing development outpacing the necessary road improvements. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Is it Marion Kirschkoff? Is that right?
Close.
Close?
3 minutes, please.
Marion Kirchhoff. I live at 1413 Carrie May Lane. Let's
Welcome.
see. Good evening. My husband Steve and I share 387 feet of property line with these parcels. And I appreciate the opportunity for you to speak to us. It's nice to see all of you again. And Commissioner Olson, welcome aboard.
Thank you, ma'am.
Let's see if I can do this here. Sorry. Help! Help! Oh, there it is. Nope, I want to go up
It
one.
went too fast, I think. So did the, let's get back a minute. Let me back up once. This is when I took one slide seemed to be tricky. So with this one, right?
That's it, yes.
There we go.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, as a reminder from a year ago, this is the property on Wade Avenue, the Barren Lands. Looking across the street, you can see the farmhouse built in 1910 and the Century Plus old oak trees the property is known for. The former business was appropriately named Under the Oaks. On the north side of Wade Avenue, from Avert Road all the way to the Wake Forest Reservoir, about the only thing you'll find are single-family homes on wooded lots, except for a small commercial area about 2 miles west on Mackey Drive. I don't know how to make this go. Oh, rats. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I didn't see the bar. I appreciate your patience with this.
Let's see.
There, I'm looking for the, oh, right there.
Oh, all right.
There we go. Okay, thank you. This drone footage is a sweep along the north side of the property. The Matthews home site is the clearing in the distance. The Barren Lands is a beautiful piece of property with thick hardwood forest, very few pine trees, and tremendous granite boulders. Carrie May is on the left side of the screen. There's been a bit more clearing done since last year. Somewhere over there is an elusive tom turkey who has entertained us with his gobbling. I haven't seen him, but some of the neighbors report that they've seen him. There's plenty of vulnerable wildlife over there: deer, possums, raccoons, foxes, snakes, the occasional coyote, and feral cats. Joe mentioned the number of species of birds. It was actually 62 different species, some of which are very rare in the area. As the footage continues, you see a small clearing where the 2 houses are, and then you see the Steelman's Place there with the Leland cypresses, and then we're back at the Matthews property in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. Oh, it doesn't do it. This is what I'm supposed to be clicking, right?
Let's go.
I'm sorry.
No, I'm not helping.
Okay, thank you. This slide, the homes that abut the parcels are well established, built from 1978 to 1994. The lots range in size from 0.92 acres to 11.84 acres. Carrie May has 10 lots, 9 of which have homes on them. This settled community surrounds the Barren Lands. As you can see, putting a townhome development on this property is vastly different than building townhomes in the middle of a new subdivision, which is what's proposed to go in on the south side of Wade Avenue. And the size of that commercial area on the corner is concerning. Yikes. This slide shows what was proposed a year ago, 77 townhomes on the 13-plus acres. At the neighborhood meeting on May 18th of this year, we were told that the new proposal was significantly different from the original plan. Let's compare, shall we? This slide is the new plan. We don't really see any difference, really, between the two plans. The new plan, again, means clear-cutting this property. It will be disruptive to the quiet nature of the surrounding home sites and wildlife, and has no connectivity to anywhere except by car. This type of development does not belong here. It's better suited to be close to town, where residents can walk to the store and other amenities. And for the developer to call this a senior community is really disingenuous. If you don't require the owners to be 55 plus, which they do not, those are just words to make the development sound more palatable. I'm reminded of the adage, you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry, but this is still a pig. Please say no. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And is it Neil Ghosh?
That's me.
That's you? Yeah. Okay. And I know John Frazier, so I think that was it for the public hearing. Any questions from any of the board members for, I guess, the applicant or any of the applicant people?
Yes.
I recognize Dan.
My first question is about the LDO, but as I'm looking inside the rezoning justification on page 50, I'm seeing the term, or I'm going to read the sentence. Adequate public infrastructure exists in the area and the site will be developed according to the Towns of Roseville Unified Development Ordinance. Meredith, we're under the LDO, correct? Any reason why this is popping up, UDO?
That is correct. We're under the LDO. I think people are still getting used to the UDO, LDO, and I've seen that error made multiple times.
So this is just a error.
I believe that's an error.
Okay. Okay, and then my next question pertains to a slide to where I saw the applicant with I saw misuse. Unless I read that incorrectly, I saw misuse on one of
the concept plan? Mm-hmm. All right, let's see.
Where it said townhouses, single family,
Yeah.
duplexes. It was up there somewhere.
I'm seeing townhouses here, but I'm seeing misuse. Misuse say commercial. Where's commercial? Keep going. It's another slide. It's just like a plain drawing. I think one of
The one from the Marion?
could have been.
Okay, let's see.
I think it was the very first slide that was presented.
This
That
one?
was the one about the highway district, probably.
Yeah.
This one? This, it sounded like this comes from a different development. This is from, we saw this, it was 2 or 3 meetings ago. It was the Pulte subdivision that was actually denied. So there's the order for denial was on the consent agenda this evening. But this was from that traffic study.
Okay. Okay. Just want to clarify that.
Sure. That's good clarification.
I do have a question. He said,
For who?
for the attorney, I'm a little confused. Are these townhomes? Are these going to be duplexes? Because I thought I heard you say duplexes.
Sure.
For
So
seniors.
first of all, I did mean to mention, we are happy to drop condition 2 on advice of staff. Our intent was to provide a physical barrier, and I guess the LDO requirement here is for a wall offset from the property line. We're happy to do that. These are technically townhomes, but they are set up, there's only 2 units per structure.
So where did I see 4.5 or 4.2?
4.2 dwelling units per acre is 52 units over the 12.43 acres. So in total, it's 4.2 dwelling units per acre. But on the concept plan that you can see on the screen here, you can see each one of these squares is one building, and each building has 2 units. So they are technically townhomes because each unit is on its own tax lot, but they are set up like duplexes. As opposed to, I'm sure you've seen blocks of townhomes that are 5 townhomes in one block. That's not what this is.
Okay, and did you speak on the 1 access road versus the 2?
Yeah, so this plan has been reviewed by the town's fire department. I'm not sure where the requirement for the fire requirement for there to be 2 access points is coming from. It's not something we're familiar with, and we believe this plan is compliant with the town's fire code.
Any other questions, anybody?
No.
What about Paul?
Yeah, I guess my question is probably going to be for the planning department. This falls within our ETJ, and I felt that I got a little bit of a veiled threat of if we don't pass this, we're going somewhere else in the county. So what's our standing as the town and that being our ETJ?
This is ours to annex if it comes forward with a petition. Right now, it is under Hvac County zoning, so it could be developed under Hvac County zoning today.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any question, April? How about down here, any other questions?
No, sir.
All right, well, I'm going to close the public hearing and have the board deliberate. What's the thought of the board?
My thought is not to move forward with this because there's too many inconsistencies from how it's supposed to be used and what they're requesting.
Is your mic on?
I'm sorry, I probably just wasn't speaking into it. I'm sorry. Do I need to repeat myself?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You said my thoughts on this is not to move forward with this because I just feel like there's too many changes that they're trying to fit a really big piece into a small puzzle. And there are just too many things that we have said as a board that we do not want to see happen in Roseville, and this seems to embody all of them. So the access roads is an issue. The green space is an issue. I'm still trying to figure out where did it become a senior community as was stated versus not, which makes a big difference in traffic, and just in my unprofessional opinion, because I'm not a traffic expert. This is not something I see that would be a benefit to Roseville in that location. That's all I have to say.
I don't think it fits in that location personally. I do have some concerns since our planning board has thoroughly gone through this whole application, and they do have great concerns also to deny it. I find that since it is reasonably, as stated by our planning director, consistent with our LDO, I have concerns about that because it doesn't fit. She had to use the word reasonably, which means left me with some question of does it or does it not. So I think that it does not fit in that area out there where there are 1 to 11 acres per lot. That's my thought.
All right.
Any other board members?
Time for the motion.
Not hearing any, I will entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion. Okay, so I would make a motion to deny the rezoning request for MA 2108 Barham Land. I guess that's really it. We don't have to go through the other two. That's it.
Okay, I have a motion.
Second.
Do I hear a second? Is that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I got a motion from Commissioner Medley and a second from Commissioner Austin. And I open up any other discussion from board members. Not hearing any. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries for deny, right? Carries to deny. Okay, thank you.
Mayor Kern, just as a technical matter, we had two matters. We had the annexation as the separate issue. If just as a note, we would table that indefinitely
Okay.
and remove that from the from the board's agenda. As I understand, the annexation was conditioned upon approval of a rezoning.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think that was kind of stated, and obviously they left, so I would say, you know, a board understands that it was two processes, that the first one got approved, and we would have another step to take, and being the first one was denied, it's no necessary to take the second one, so that would officially be tabled, I think.
I have a question for you, Mayor. How do you address the comment that was made that someone chose to live where they are, not in Roseville? Because this impacts Roseville citizens regardless of the fact that they're out in the ETJ. Like, how do you address that? I thought that was not a comment that should have been made, but I don't know how accurate that was. How do you, it seemed more opinionated than factual? Because would they be here if that was not the case? I mean, this is a decision that Roseville has to make. Do you follow my question?
I do, and I think, you know, my only comment would be, you know, we live as a community and not necessarily lines drawn on the map. So, you know, I feel like we're all one big community. So, appreciate you coming out. Thank you very much. And unless there's any other discussion, we will move on to the next agenda item. I have 8:55. So we've been going for 1 hour and 55 minutes. Let's take a recess and come back at 9:05. So we're in recess. Thank you, board. And the next item is an evidentiary hearing, SP 20-01, Elizabeth Springs Amenity Center. Being this is an evidentiary hearing, a legal procedure, I'm going to let the attorney facilitate this. So if you don't mind, David, I'm going to turn it over to you to take and run with it.
Thank you, Mayor Kern. As we normally do, I'll read the script that we use for our quasi-judicial decisions, and we use this for all evidentiary hearings. While we do have 2 evidentiary hearings, if there are no objections from the board or from a party, I'm only going to read this once. Evidentiary hearings are characteristics similar to court proceedings. Evidentiary hearings are necessary when a quasi-judicial decision must be made by the board. The board's decision must be based only upon the evidence presented at this hearing and site visits by the board, if any. Witnesses must testify under oath or affirmation. The parties may be represented by legal counsel. The parties have the right to cross-examine witnesses. The parties have a right to object to improper testimony or evidence. There is a right to present rebuttal evidence. All evidence provided by witnesses must be competent and material. Unduly repetitious or irrelevant testimony may be barred. An attorney or party wishing to cross-examine a witness shall rise and wait for me to recognize you. Normally, witnesses may testify only as to their personal knowledge of facts. With regard to competent evidence, North Carolina law prohibits a person from giving opinions about scientific, technical, and other specialized subjects unless the person, by knowledge, skill, experience, training, or education, is in fact an expert on the subject. A person wanting to give an opinion as an expert must first state his or her qualifications to be an expert. Unless the witness is an expert on the subject, North Carolina General Statute 160D 1402 specifically prohibits opinions that the use of property in a particular way would affect the value of other properties, or opinions that the increase in vehicular traffic resulting from a proposed development would pose a danger to the public safety. And at this point, we'll do the voir dire, and I'll ask you a variety of questions relating to conflict of interest and board members' ability to serve as impartial fact finders. A board member shall not participate in this hearing if the member has a fixed opinion prior to the hearing that is not susceptible to change, has engaged in undisclosed ex parte communications, has a close familial, business, or other associational relationship with the applicant or an affected person, or has a financial interest in the outcome of the matter. Is any member predisposed to vote a particular way on this matter such that his or her opinion is fixed and the evidence presented during this hearing is not likely to influence his or her decision?
No.
Has any member discussed this matter with proponents, opponents, or others?
No.
Does any member have a close familial, business, or other associational relationship with the applicant or an aggrieved party?
No.
No.
Does any member have a financial interest in the outcome of this matter?
No.
While not a conflict of interest, specialized knowledge of members should be disclosed. Does any member have particular knowledge or expertise regarding the site or the subject matter of this hearing?
No.
Has any member made a site visit?
No.
Is there any objection by a member of the board or by a party to the participation of any member on the basis of a conflict of interest?
No.
And I do not see anyone in the audience rising to object. And with that, I would ask the clerk to administer the oath to all those who believe they may wish to testify at any point during this hearing. Don't be shy.
We're still distancing, so you can remain where you are. If you would just stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. And with that, we'll open the evidentiary hearing and call upon staff to provide the staff report.
Good evening. Mike Ellebarger, Senior Planner in the Planning Department. This is application SP 20-01, a site plan for the Elizabeth Springs Amenity Center. Quick location map. This is an image of the entire Elizabeth Springs subdivision. And this is the area here on the eastern side, not too far from Averett Road, where the proposed lot for the Amenity Center is. There is a lengthy history to the Elizabeth Springs subdivision and project. I won't go through all of these details. Some of this should be fresh, as 1 month ago we were here for the entitlement processes for the area of the subdivision that was removed from the Little River watershed. Here's a site layout of the proposed amenity center, parking lot coming in from an interior neighborhood street on the right, and then the pool area with a small building containing equipment, bathrooms, et cetera. This application, due to the lineage and heritage of the Elizabeth Springs project overall, is subject to the Unified Development Ordinance, not the newer Land Development Ordinance. And the process for reviewing site plans includes an evidentiary quasi-judicial hearing, which we're doing now. The applicant will be providing testimony to the findings of fact, and the board has the option to approve or deny. The analysis of this overall site plan was 3 submittals were done, and there are no further staff comments regarding it. The Little River watershed removal process was completed, which affected about the eastern third of the subject lot, and the zoning entitlement for the entire lot is now complete with the actions of the town board just last month. Staff has no outstanding comments or issues with this application. We do recommend that you hold this quasi-judicial evidentiary hearing. Up on the screen are the findings of facts, and the applicant is present to answer any questions.
And we'll admit the staff report and the application into the record as evidence. Are any of the parties represented by legal counsel? I see Mr. Frederick. Do you have an opening statement that you would like to deliver to the board?
Sure. My name is Kevin Peach. I'm an attorney out of Cary, North Carolina. Spoke with you last month here. Our firm represents the applicant in this matter, Experience One Homes. They are the developer and owner of Elizabeth Springs, the Elizabeth Springs PUD. As staff just eloquently put it, we are here on the final matter, the final approval for Elizabeth Springs. Last month, you were gracious enough to approve removal of the watershed affecting the eastern portion of the property, and approve the preliminary plat of which had the Amenity Center on it, just not the specific plans on there. So we're here today to deal with the Amenity Center, the pool, the clubhouse, things like that, that is located at the front of the development. As you know, and you can see, we need to present evidence on these 7 findings of fact. And if you allow me, I'll go ahead and call witnesses, expert witnesses, to testify to these matters. Thank you. Applicant calls Travis Fluitt.
Good evening, Travis Fluitt with Kimley Horn and Associates, 421 Fayetteville Street in Raleigh.
Travis, what do you do for a living?
I am a professional transportation engineer.
Okay, and you prepared traffic impact studies for this property, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, we'll get this over pretty quick. I'm sorry, Travis. Will this proposed development create any undue traffic or traffic hazard concerns?
No, it will not.
And why is that?
The traffic numbers, amenity centers by themselves do not generate trips. The traffic generation for this would already be included in the trip generation analysis and traffic studies previously prepared for this site and previously approved and reviewed by town staff.
No further questions. Any questions from the board?
Thank you.
Thank you, Travis.
Thank you.
And the town has previously acknowledged Mr. Fluitt as an expert in traffic analysis.
Applicant now calls Gail Orr to the stand.
Hey.
Gail, please state your name.
Gay. It would be Gay Orr.
Gay Orr. What do you do for a living, Gay?
I am president and partner of Coldwell Banker Advantage New Homes.
And can you state your education, any certifications, things like that?
I am, I'm the past president of the local HBA. I have a master's in residential marketing and sales, certified new home specialist, a certified residential specialist, a certified broker manager, and I could go on. I've done this before. Do you want me to keep going?
How long have you been?
I've been selling real estate in the Triangle for 38 years.
Okay, at this point, I'd like to move to Ms. Orr as an expert in real estate marketing.
The town would acknowledge her as an expert in that area.
Okay, Gay, would this development as built substantially injure the value of any adjacent properties?
No.
No? And why is that?
Well, an amenity center is a very, everybody that buys in a neighborhood wants an amenity center. And the property values in a neighborhood with an amenity center are much higher than they are without. And if you've got two properties that are equal, if one is in a neighborhood with an amenity center and one without, people typically buy with the amenity center. It's a community, it's where the community gathers, it's where they meet their neighbors and the kids play, and so it's a definite value to the community.
And you've seen renderings, drawings, plans for this community, this amenity center, correct? In your opinion, would it match up with the harmony, the scale, the design of the rest of the neighborhood?
Absolutely.
Okay. No further questions.
Anybody?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I'll call Mr. Kenrick Barnes to the stand. Please state your name, sir.
I'm Kenrick Barnes.
All right, Kenrick, what do you do for a living?
I'm a civil engineer with Bateman Civil Survey Company out of Apex, North Carolina.
And how long have you been there?
I've been there since August 2019, so approaching 3 years.
Okay, any degree, certifications?
I graduated with a bachelor's in civil engineering from NC State, and I recently, last month, passed the PE exam, so I'll be getting my license within the next year.
Okay. And have you had any dealings with these plans in specific?
Yeah, I was part of the team that helped design this. I worked under our previous engineering director to work on these plans, get them approved, and go through that entire process.
All right, at this point, I would like to move to submit Mr. Kenrick here as an expert in engineering.
We'll accept him as such.
Okay. Kenrick, will this proposed development material endanger public health?
No, it will not.
And in your opinion, why not?
Because it's just a building, a pool, parking lots. It's just simple everyday stuff you see everywhere, and there's no inherent danger or public health risk.
Are there sufficient hookups to water, sewer, electricity?
There are. We're providing sewer cleanouts, water taps going to the building, to the pool. We have restrooms, so everything will be covered.
Okay. And this portion of the property, or the entire development, is zoned medium density. Will this comply with the
Yes,
UDO?
it meets medium density UDO requirements.
Okay. No further questions.
Any questions from the board? Seeing no one else. Do you have anyone else?
If the board has any questions for one of the principals and builders of Experience One Homes, I can call him, but it's really up to you.
I have a question. When you say UDO, did he mean LDO, or this is falling
This is
under?
under the
This is under the UDO? Okay, just want to make sure. Thank you.
I don't see anyone clamoring for that.
Well, applicant rests then.
Is there anyone else to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here with us to offer evidence in opposition to this application? Seeing no one, Mr. Peach, did you have a closing argument, or are you willing to roll with the fates?
I think the evidence here tonight has shown that the findings of fact here have been met. This development, this amenity center, will not endanger public health. There is sufficient police, fire, sewer, water, electricity hookups there. It's not going to injure any adjacent property owners, either materially or financially. It's in character with the rest of the development, and it's not going to cause a undue traffic hazard or any traffic congestion. So really, we will leave it up to the board and accept your whatever decision you make. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ask for any additional comments from staff.
There are none.
Mr. Mayor, members of the board, that concludes the evidence that's been offered to you. You have your findings of fact that we are required to make in all of these cases, and I'll return it to the mayor to preside over this.
Thank you, Attorney. So I will turn it to the board for any kind of deliberations, and I would love to receive a motion on this request.
I move, if the board is ready, I think that we found the findings of facts to where we can move. I move to approve site plan request SP 20-01 Elizabeth Springs Amenity Center based upon the evidence and testimony received at the hearing to determine the findings of fact.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion from Commissioner Austin and a second from Commissioner Vilga. Is there any other discussion? If not, a call for a vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any. Motion passed. Thank you, board. Thank you, applicants, for coming out. And I hope you have a pool party real soon. You won't have one this summer, I don't think, though.
Thank you.
All right, I will call the next item, which is evidentiary hearing, PR 22-02 Granite Crest Phase 4.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As mentioned earlier, we'll incorporate the procedural statement mentioned during the last case and incorporate that into the record by reference. But we'll again go through the voir dire questions, this relating to this case only. Is any member predisposed to vote a particular way on this matter such that his or her opinion is fixed and the evidence presented during this hearing is not likely to influence his or her decision?
No.
No.
Has any member discussed this matter with proponents, opponents, or others?
No.
Does any member have a close familial, business, or other associational relationship with the applicant or an aggrieved party?
No.
No.
Does any member have a financial interest in the outcome of this matter?
No.
While not a conflict of interest, specialized knowledge of members should be disclosed. Does any member have particular knowledge or expertise regarding the site or the subject matter of this hearing?
No.
No.
Has any member made a site visit?
No.
No.
Is there any objection by a member of the board or by a party or any other aggrieved party on the basis of a conflict of interest?
No.
And I'm not seeing Mr. Debnam rise to object. And with that, we will ask the clerk to administer the oath.
Those wishing to provide testimony, if you will stand and raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Thank you. May be seated.
Ask for the staff report.
Excellent, thank you. Mike Ellebarger, Senior Planner in the Planning Department. Item C4 is preliminary subdivision plat, case PR 22-02 for Phase 4 of Granite Crest. A locational map here. This is a large picture of Rolesville. Main Street is there on the bottom or the south. We see Burlington Mills, Young Street, and then Rogers Road. And in the purple there, I will move my cursor. This is the general area of this Phase 4, and this area here is Granite Crest, basically to here.
Is there a reason why it's not on this one anymore?
Oh, pardon me. Eric? There we go. There we go. All right. So again, in purple here is the subject area for a Phase 4 being presented tonight. Granite Crest as well has a lengthy history, actually going back to 2003. I will not go into all the details, but this gives you a glimpse to the timing and the build out of this subdivision. And this is Phase 4, and this would be the final phase of the project overall. This property is zoned R2-SUD, which stands for Special Use District under the Unified Development Ordinance. So again, this is another one of these legacy or vested projects to the Unified Development Ordinance. This particular plat proposes 25 single-family detached residential lots, 2 open space lots, and 1 mail kiosk lot. There are actually 2 sub-phases to that, which we'll see shortly. Within this subdivision, the density comes out to just about 2.1 dwellings per acre. There are 2 extensions of existing streets and then 1 new cul-de-sac street. Greenways are included in this subdivision per conditions from a special use permit from 2015. And there are no road improvements or off-site road improvements directly associated with this particular phase. Here's an image from the preliminary subdivision plat. And as you see here, at the bottom in that gray color, this is what is known as Phase 4B, which would be the first to be developed. This is 16 lots. And then the hatched property in the light gray hatching on the north or upper side there, that is Phase 4C, and that would be developed subsequent to the earlier phase or sub-phase. And that has 9. So 16 and 9, that's your 25 lots. Again, this application is subject to the UDO, not the newer LDO. And the UDO process for preliminary plat review is an evidentiary quasi-judicial hearing that we're having at the moment. The applicant provides testimony for the findings of facts, and then the board shall approve or deny. 4 submittals of this application occurred within the last just less than a year, and there are no further TRC staff comments on that. There are construction drawings for the infrastructure, the roads and utilities, et cetera, currently undergoing review by the TRC reviewers. And Phase 3C is that which is under construction currently. So if anyone were to go out there and see physical construction in this general area, that is Phase C3 that is under development. And that would lead, obviously, to Phase 4. Staff has no further comments or outstanding comments on this application. We do recommend that this evidentiary hearing occur. And again, the findings of facts will be on the screen, and the applicant is here to speak to those findings of fact.
Are there any questions for staff?
Once built out, how large is this development? Because it has been going on for a very long time.
I'll let the applicant speak to the complete number of lots that would be developed.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
The application and staff report are admitted into evidence. I see that the applicant is represented by counsel.
Good evening. Probably later than we all wanted to be here, but it's still the evening. My name's Thurston Debenham, and I represent the applicant. And I have been practicing law in Hvac County now for almost 50 years. But tonight we are here, at least in my opinion, as a continuation of how this project started. In November of 2015, this board heard testimony from the planning director, myself, Johnny Edwards, and Hal Perry, the applicant who's here, and made findings of fact approving a special use permit, which was signed off on by the mayor and the town clerk, and actually has been recorded in the office of the Register of Deeds in book 16229, page 2784. And I would like to submit this evidentiary findings and conclusions of law as part of our record, if I could do that now.
The town will receive the recorded special use permit order as an exhibit and add it to the record.
This particular special use permit talks about maximum of 31 lots, and I think we're here tonight for the last of these 31 lots. And I don't know anything about developing and moving dirt and stuff, so we'll call upon our engineer with John Edwards' company to describe that. But we have submitted plans to the staff, and all that's been reviewed.
Good evening. My name is Travis Tybrowski. I am a professional engineer with expertise in the civil engineering field. I have been with Johnny Evers and Company for about 6 years in the Raleigh area now. And I've been the one working on these plans and preparing them and getting them ready for both the preliminary plat approval here as well as the construction documents. So if you guys have any questions for me, I have a pretty intimate history with the project, so.
I do have one question about, and I don't know specifically, do we have the drawings that we can actually bring them up, or should I wait for that, or?
Let me look to Ms. Gruber or to Mike.
And it might be simple enough that we might not need the drawing, but I just.
I can go back on my PowerPoint here to the one picture. I do not have the full set of preliminary
I can just
plat
ask the
drawings.
question,
Okay.
basically. Drawing C-0, there's a note 12 that pertains to the greenways. And the greenways were proposed at 5 foot at that time.
Yep.
And now we're at 10 foot. I just wanted to see how that would be handled.
Yep, so the one that's proposed behind the, behind lots 187 to 191, that is a 10-foot greenway.
Okay.
And it's, that impervious area is accounted for as part of the stormwater management for this phase, even though it's not triggered until the 23rd lot. And then there's a 5-foot, I think it was called a chat walk.
Okay.
That connects the greenway up to kind of the normal sidewalk. But yeah, the greenway portion of the trail is proposed at 10.
Okay.
Yep.
And one other question I had, there was an entrance to the Myers property. Do we have anything shown? I mean, how can you describe that entrance to the Myers lot?
Yep, so it's, the lot 212 will be an HOA lot.
Okay.
That has the kind of a shared access driveway on it. It's 24 adjacent to the mail kiosk because it's backing out to parking, and then it necks down to 20 to serve the Myers parcel.
Okay.
And then the whole thing is contained in a 30-foot access easement.
Okay.
And it also includes a future sewer service
Okay.
as well.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Are there any other?
So you're putting sewer to the Myers property?
Yeah, yes, there's a manhole basically at the property line, but kind of to the maximum extent practicable. Yep. And that's also in an easement, so it's city sewer.
Mr. Attorney, if I may be recognized, or you can ask Mr. Dabrowski his address.
Oh, I'm sorry, 333 Wade Avenue in Raleigh.
Are there any other questions for the witness?
I got one. It's more of a, I guess, a technicality thing. The cul-de-sac, why has it got a little stub that goes into the repairing buffer there? Why does it do that? Do we require you to do that or something, or?
Yeah, I think at the time, I think this gets into some history I frankly don't have, but I think there were designs on extending that road to the north at some point that may have fallen through, either through lack of cooperation with a neighbor, or I'm frankly not sure, but that's my understanding. I think when Phase 4C comes through for construction, we would still propose it as a closed cul-de-sac. It just then would have the right-of-way available for.
But it'll just be right away. It won't be
Yeah.
You're not paving in the
That's
the
correct.
buffer.
Yep.
Good.
And to answer the question, I think we wind up, Granite Crest as a whole, I think winds up at 199 total lots.
How many?
199, I think, total.
Okay. Wait, you're talking about just the new portion, right?
No, the whole thing. I think the question earlier was the entire Granite Crest development, phases 1 through 4.
I thought it was more. It seems massive out there. Wow. All right, thank you for that.
Thanks, sir.
Yep, thank you.
Do you have any other witnesses?
I have nothing to add.
Okay, thank you. You have heard from the applicant's engineer, and you have received other sworn testimony received by reference contained within their 2015 special use permit that originally approved this subdivision. I believe that with that, the applicant would rest, but I'll wait to confirm that.
Did you?
That is correct.
I just want to make sure they're done.
We are. We're done with our evidence. It is our position that the 2015 special use permit cover this property as well. We're just kind of late getting around to bringing these specific lots to the town for approval.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else to?
I just have a general question. This is the final? This is the final?
Yes, ma'am, this is the end.
There are two sub phases, to be clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But these are the totals. I got you. Thank you.
That's an excellent question.
Sorry.
No. So the last one to come to us. Is there anyone else to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone to speak in opposition, offering evidence? Yes, sir.
Can you put the map back up there?
Your name and address.
Gotcha. My name is Courtney J. Myers. I stay at 1037 Smoke Willow Way. I spoke to you guys last time, and you know, I've been going back and forth with them since we moved there. We've had a couple of run-ins. One, there was an old house. I know the mayor said he remembered it. They burned it down. You know, I know it's like a controlled burn, I guess they call it, where the fire department comes in and burns it down. And, you know, they didn't tell us anything, you know, and we come home at night and, you know, all the firemen are there. They're parked in our yard and they're burning down the old house next to us. You know, I didn't appreciate that. And another one was, you know, they've been moving the path, the easement around for years. And my father had a medical emergency down there. And, you know, I had to give him CPR and he didn't make it, you know. And, you know, I got this letter from the town, you know, kind of apologizing in not so many words, but, you know, saying that they fixed the address because it was out of order. You know, I had to go up to the sign there and flag the EMS down and get them to come back and help me out with my father. But, you know, they just kind of have their way, and you know, it's a lot. You know, we're crossing through their construction site now. You know, I have kids. It's a little better now because they're out of school now, but it's just been a mess. You know, they're dynamiting and all kinds of stuff. So I'd like to know what the address, where they have, you know, what's our address going to be for down there, you know, and a timeline maybe for how long this is going to go on, because it's a bit much, you know, and that's what I have.
So, Mr. Myers, if that's a question, we might be able to get an answer on the timeline for construction for you.
Yes, and an address.
We may be able to get that. You may be able to get that right now.
Okay.
I don't know that it goes to the hearing that we have right now, but it is a
Okay.
very good question that you should certainly ask.
Okay.
And I think your answer might be right there off your left shoulder.
Okay.
Did you have anything to offer in opposition to approving this, or you expect this to be approved this evening?
I
would assume you want this to be completed.
I'd like to be completed, but I have a question. This phase that they're working on now, has it been already approved? I mean...
Correct. So the special use permit for the lots was previously approved.
In 2015?
Now the board is, well, it was also, then came back, I believe, in 2021 for an amendment, and it is now the layout of those lots that is before the board with the final design.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all I got.
Be sure to catch those guys for an answer.
Why do I have to keep dealing with them? I don't understand.
As the property owner, how long it takes them to build is entirely their timeline based upon their business concerns. We don't impose how fast you have to build.
Okay. Or addresses or anything like that?
I'm going to guess that none of us know.
Okay. All right. Thank
Sure.
you.
Can I just get clarification?
I need some too.
So I'm just trying to figure out, where is the address? I didn't hear him state his address. Did he state his address?
1037 Smoke Willow Way. It's the Myers residence right here. And right now, they've got a temporary...
I got you.
It's that square.
Okay, got you.
This is a matter that's come back to us a few times over the course of this development. The mayor is very familiar. I believe staff has been out to the site trying to manage the construction activity and maintain access.
Gotcha. That was one question, and my other question was, when he's asking for the address for what? I'm not clear on that.
What's gonna be my new address? It's been changed
Okay, gotcha.
3 times.
All in relation to your property. I got you. I just wanted to make sure I was understanding the questions.
Yeah.
Odd layout, they've got us going and turning into a kiosk and then going down a path to get home. I've never seen anything like that. Not saying that it doesn't exist, but, where do I take my trash? Do I go past the kiosk with my trash or, and vehicles, it dead ends right there. Emergency vehicles getting in and out of there, and it's a weird setup. You know what I'm saying?
I see we have a staff member waiting to clarify something.
I was just going to address the addressing question. I would ask the applicant, have they vetted that yet with addressing with the county? Usually that is not done at this preliminary plat stage. That would come closer to the final plat staging when you go to the county and ask for the addresses, and then this property would be included in that, I would think. But this is not a usual subdivision situation. The Myers property is not part of this subdivision. So it's being developed, right? The subdivision is being developed around this property.
So which house is his? Which point to it for me?
Right here where the mouse is.
Okay,
This
that's- I just have to
square
make sure.
is Mr. Myers' property. So I could work with Mr. Myers to contact Wake County about addressing.
And I also
As well
see
as the
that
development.
the engineer has risen. Let's recall that witness just in hopes that that gives us some clarity and some closure.
Just for clarity on the timeline for the addressing, we'll submit that application to Wake County as part of the final plat process. So they'll go through and assign addresses to all the parcels for the subdivision, and we can include the Myers parcel as part of that application and make sure that everybody's records are updated as part of the Wake County GIS 911 system. And then specific to the emergency access, the path that's being provided is 20 feet rather than the kind of minimum 12 for residential access. So it'll be rated, the pavement section on that will be rated for emergency vehicles, not just kind of travel vehicles. So it's more substantial than just a standard driveway as far as access is concerned. And again, the easement on top of that kind of guarantees in perpetuity that access is granted. It can't be unilaterally revoked by the developer. He's always going to have access to the public right of way.
Is that shown on this picture, that access you were
Yep.
describing?
Yeah, I don't know. Can you zoom in?
212?
It is on lot 212 there. Yeah, you can kind of see. So this scale, you kind of lose the right side of it. But on the left there, you can see the kind of parking spaces. So adjacent to that right side boundary is the drive. And then it would terminate at the property line.
I can't tell.
Yeah, it's like right up here.
It's the furthermost on the bottom.
It's the
furthermost
darkest gray,
right.
yeah.
Right here, this is 212.
Yep.
And so the mail kiosk is right there, a few parking spaces, and then that line would graphically indicate
Yep.
a
Yeah, that's the
drive
left
aisle.
side. Yep.
Yeah.
The right side just happens to overlap with at
okay.
this scale with the
So
property line.
this would all be paved down to reaching the Myers property there.
That's right.
So that's the driveway. So to
That's right. Yep.
Where's the entry to his property at?
I believe there's a gravel road that kind of goes east-west across.
It's at 132.
Yeah.
Right, so I know they're faint, but you see these dashed lines and a curve? That is an existing access easement.
Yep.
That's recorded.
Yep.
And again, when when Phase 3C was reviewed and approved, obviously, this is a new home lot, and so that access easement was replaced by an access easement here.
Yep.
So when this Phase 3 was approved, it removed that access easement, and Phase 4 has now come back to provide the access easement here.
And there's a condition specifically.
And that was all through.
Yeah, there's a condition specifically on lot 132 that it cannot be developed until that public access is provided elsewhere. So there's no time period where he's not.
So that access on 212, is that paved completely?
Yes.
So you're providing a paved all the way to the property?
Yes.
And that's paved will be maintained by,
I believe the HOA. That's an
Gotcha.
HOA-owned lot.
so
But it's not paved yet.
It's not today, no.
Okay.
but it will be when it's,
Yeah, that's
Will
part
be
of this
paved.
development, that's
Okay, I was
correct.
just clarifying.
Yes.
Okay, so he's locked on all 3 sides except for the front? So you're coming through the kiosk way to get to that property?
For clarity for the witness and perhaps for counsel, given that these matters are not graphically presented the way they've been presented here, the town would impose, I believe, a condition requiring submittal for the address, come in with final plat.
Sure.
And that the 20-foot drive be constructed, which is in excess of the 12-foot minimum.
That's right.
And
I believe
because I don't think that's on the graphic.
I think the 12-foot drive was part of the 15 special use permit. There is a provision in there about lot 212 maintaining access to the Myers parcel.
I know there was access, but 20-foot paved access.
It was not specifically 20-foot paved.
So that would be a condition of this application to be maintained by the HOA. So the motion would be amended to address those technical matters. I assume that's all acceptable.
And that is, for clarity, all shown on the construction documents as well.
that's the increase from 12 to 20, is that what I hear?
20 being the minimum fire apparatus path width.
Nice.
And you're saying that's consistent with what you're simultaneously working on right now in the CDs?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
No, wait, so I have another question. So how did that one chunk, was it just created that way? Somebody had that piece and all the surrounding property is one lot that's going to be subdivided and built upon?
I think the surrounding pieces were multiple parcels. I frankly don't have that level of history on it, how we got to this point.
This is, the access is addressed in the prior order. And this is all a function of the redevelopment of that site with the preservation of this lot and the home that Mr. Myers and his family had bought there. The development has occurred around them, sometimes for better and sometimes for worse with regard to dealing with the construction activity.
So what is that in the front at the bottom, at the end of the cul-de-sac?
Those are the
New homes, that's the new development, it's, I'm not sure the name of it. They're already there, so they kind of, on both sides of me now, where the entrance at the kiosk.
Do you know what space that is?
I don't. That's not Granite Crest, it's something else.
Wow.
Are you talking about 14, 13, 12?
I'm just looking at how that parcel was built all the way around.
Yeah, well, the one's right at the bottom, that's Granite Falls.
Granite Falls.
I can address that if you want.
It's,
First of all, my name's Hal Perry. I've been involved in this since the start. And Mr. Myers, we've had several conversation emails, and I want to apologize for any difficulties you've had, but unfortunately, it's been difficult for us to try and do the best we can around you, but I know it doesn't make it easier on you as well. First of all, on this path, we didn't have to do any more than what was in the SUP, but we wanted to pave it versus gravel is all that's required in access. But we went ahead and made it paved all the way so it would be included as much as we could. The reason that was left, and Mr. Myers knows more about that than I do, that's just land that was there. All the rest of the land around it was part of other parcels that were joined, and that actually I bought, or my group bought, from people who owned the land, and we chose to develop it. At one time, I think there was discussion about was he interested in selling, and I don't blame him. He wasn't. He wanted. Yeah, I'm not speaking for him. He wasn't, and I don't blame him. He wanted to maintain his property. So we're trying to make the best of a situation that we didn't create, but certainly do sympathize with what he's having to do. And I think we're going above and beyond that. And something you will like is if we continue to get this passed, the reason the town has worked with us to try and get this done as quickly as possible, so we've got people out there working now. And we don't want them to stop. We want them to get through just as badly as Mr. Myers wants them to get through out there. So we're not going to quit. We're going to keep building this till we build these next 16 lots and get that construction, which will affect him, through. If we have any luck at all, that may be completed by the end of the year. So that's going to be our best effort.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Were there any questions for Mr. Perry?
No.
Is there anyone else to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I believe we have all we need. Is there a desire by council to provide a closing argument?
No, sir.
And with that, any comments from staff supplementing earlier report?
No.
With that, Mr. Mayor, I return this to you and to the board for your consideration.
Okay. Thank you, David. Appreciate that. So I will turn it to the board. Any discussion before I ask for a call to question?
I have one question. I don't understand when addresses are assigned. I have no idea, so someone, if you could educate me here. Since he is not part of Granite Falls, and he is a whole separate parcel of land, why does he have to wait on an address until Granite Falls assigns addresses?
Sure. So I've got the image back here. So this is his lot, and I believe, Mr. Myers, you said your address was from Smoky,
Original address?
the one currently, like today.
1037 Smoke Willow Way.
Okay, Smoke Willow Way is this street here.
Yes.
Which ends in a dead end currently and is now under construction for
Right.
Phase 3C. So Smoke Willow Way will no longer be his frontage, so to speak,
Right.
when these lots here, 130, 131, 132. So his new address will probably be XYZ Granite View Drive, since physical access will be right here through Lot 212 of this subject subdivision.
Okay.
So I would expect his address to no longer be one on Smoky, I'm sorry.
Yes, Smoke Willow, yes.
Smoke Willow, but from Granite View.
My question is, why does he have to wait? Since he is not part of Granite Falls, why does he have to wait? You have an idea of what it may be.
Sure.
So why would he have to wait until the end to get an address?
Granite View Drive does not exist. It does not exist until the final plat is recorded. So none of these properties that you see here, this is a preliminary plat for conceptual laying out of them. So when the recordation happens, that's when addresses get assigned. And usually, as Mr. Tyborowski said, the process starts when they're creating the final plat and submitting it to town for review. It's one of those checklist requirements. You should have addresses when you go to record it. That's then every lot that gets recorded and officially created has an address already.
Okay.
And this property would receive an address, I would expect, at that time, since its physical address is through Lot 212. Which may have its own address for technical purposes as the HOA mail kiosk lot.
Okay.
So wait a minute, so where does his mail go? He's not a part of the
I do not
kiosk,
know.
right?
Mr. Myers can
I'm just
answer
trying to
that.
figure out how did and I'm not saying it was wrong, I'm just trying to question, how did that get approved like that? It almost seems like you were the holdup, you held out, and they built around you.
I know we talked to Jackie. Jackie was on the board. I don't know.
I think
Can
we
you-
closed the public
okay.
hearing, right? Or the evidentiary.
We have returned it to the board for your consideration.
So that was my question, I wasn't directed, I guess, I'm not trying to direct it, I'm just saying like that's, I'm sure there were reasons why, and it was discussed and what have you, but I'm just trying to picture how many more of these are we gonna see where someone's gonna be locked in like that?
Well, as a legal matter, this would be the case for any circumstance where someone were to have their address changed in terms of access. It's a 911 public safety issue to ensure that public safety vehicles know how to get to your home. So that addresses do change from time to time. And in this case, because the owners of the property around this particular owner did choose to develop, now this has the effect, and truly it looks like eventually for the benefit of the property owner who was there originally, will result in a new address. But new addresses come when the county assigns it so that each address is unique and easily identifiable and able for first responders to get there.
I think to answer her question directly, though, I think so-called donut holes is not uncommon to be built around and somebody holes out and is.
Oh, it is certainly the case that also your address changes. This is what happens, but I wouldn't say it's common.
I'm not talking about the address as much as I am that, but if somebody else owns that property, I guess they are entitled to buy it and do with it what they can based on the codes and the standards of the town.
Mr. Myers is a neighbor. He just happens to be a neighbor on 4 sides.
Yeah, that's what I figured. All right, thank you.
So I think the only concern I have about the whole thing is, and I might be completely wrong, is if Lot 212 gets its own address and he somehow gets an address as well, I just want to make sure they know how to get to his house. Like driving down the road and all of a sudden it skips a number and you can't find that house. That's awful. So I mean, that's the only thing I have a concern about is if that lot gets its own address directly in front of him, how it's identified to his address.
It is certainly, I've been involved in, unrelated to this case, I've been involved with many cases where a landlocked property is set inside of another property. And in those cases, both properties have their own addresses and Wake County works that out as an EMS issue.
All right.
So this property is not subjected to the HOA. There is going to be an HOA, correct? Yes. Okay. So it's not subjected to?
It's not even in the town.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's it.
But the whole address matter, you said we could list that as a condition in the motion, right? So the second bullet.
The suggestion for the additional conditions were to ensure that as a condition of the approval that we make today, if that's the sentiment of the board, that it be a paved 20-foot access to be maintained by the HOA, and that a requirement that this property, which I had Mr. Myers' property, is submitted for assignment together with all of the others at the time of final plat.
You got that?
You don't have to. We've got it on the record.
But the
Conditions duly noted.
So, let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Oh, I move to approve the preliminary subdivision plat with modifications in consideration of information presented at the evidentiary hearing, including those conditions that the attorney just mentioned.
I'll second.
We're good. So got a motion from Commissioner Sutton and a second from Commissioner Sneed. Is there any other discussion on this matter? Not hearing any. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing. Motion carried. Thank you. Appreciate it, board. All right, we got through two public hearing and 2 evidentiary hearings, so good job. Appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Appreciate it. Let's see. Next item is communications with town attorney, but I see he's leaving. We did something to him. Communications from town manager. I think you've already gave us some good news, so.
I have no communications other than, look, right now, I want to just emphasize, we do not have a meeting scheduled for any items for July 19th meeting.
We do not?
Do not. But I asked you to provide up to July 11th to make that final decision. So, but right now, it appears that meeting will be canceled.
We need a break.
Which one is canceled?
The next meeting in 2 weeks.
So if I understand what you're saying is if you're not letting us know by the 11th, we're not going to have the meeting.
Not meeting.
That's correct.
We're not meeting on the,
19th.
He'll let you know on the 11th.
Let you know by the 11th, though.
Okay.
So don't make any plans yet.
Yeah.
I don't want to be sitting here in the dark, right?
And that is a Tuesday night, right?
That is.
Yeah, these Wednesday night meetings kind of mess your mind up.
My Bible study classes.
What else must the
That's
town
all I have.
manager?
Oh, that's good, Kelly. Nice and short.
Nothing further.
Nothing further.
No closed
Well,
session?
Good.
Not unless you desperately want one. That's your motion, ma'am.
Well, good job on leading those evidentiary hearings.
Thank you.
I do want to update on something, but I guess I could call you for that, Kelly.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. See, he answered for you.
One and the same.
All right. Any additional communications from the board?
Oh, I do want to say something real quick about planning, that they came up with a kind of like a little nice idea of, we're talking about stem walls and cross spaces and not eliminating one altogether, but maybe allowing for a certain percentage to come in. But we're going to discuss that further at one of our upcoming meetings, right? So instead of saying no more stem walls, it's maybe some stem walls as needed, a percentage. Remember we had that long discussion more than once? So I meant to say that earlier, but I'm just saying it now. It is what it is. That's it. Thank you.
Got you. So, no other thing from the board. The only thing I would mention is Mayor Show next Thursday. We will have Meredith and Michael on there. Like Meredith will be talking about planning and Michael about economic development. I encourage you guys to watch, call in if you got a question, or type in if you got a question. And I'm kind of excited to have those two of our staff on there. And I think I do want to say thank you to all the people that was involved with the 4th of July fireworks celebration. If you looked at the social media, there's a lot of praise on there about the good work that went in there, and I think it went off without any issues. So I just want to thank the staff for that, and it's good to be able to get back into these activities. And I had several at the 4th of July celebration saying, are we going to have the Fall Fest? Where is the Fall Fest at? So I think people are getting back where they're looking for those type of things in town. So good job on that, and appreciate the work everybody put in.
Now that you mentioned that, I have a question though, because I thought I saw it listed as Redford Place Park as the location. Did that change? Because I didn't see the change come out.
No.
And I saw a lot of people on social media going, where is it again? Now, where is that? And it said Redford Place Park, but that's not where it was.
We renamed it.
You
I
changed
thought we
it about
did.
over a year ago.
So it was the same place right in front of the village?
They were shot off at a different angle.
Oh,
Towards the
because I'm like,
village
I
is
can't
back.
see them anymore.
Yeah, they were shot off at the East Young property we bought for like town hall and all that. It was shot out behind there.
So they
Yeah.
actually.
If you went to the park, you would just change from this view to this view.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Can I just say something?
was
Okay, so right
confused.
after the fireworks went off, didn't you hear all the fire trucks? Like there was a fire somewhere? Like, oh my God, what just happened? Did you not hear that? I was like, oh my God, somebody's fireworks must have went on top of somebody's roof. Oh.
I didn't hear it.
But they were very pretty. I heard a lot of people really, really, really enjoyed it. And someone even said they were going to send an email to you to send to all the commissioners to say that was a job well done. And whatever you budgeted for the fireworks, please do it again next year.
What was the budget?
I couldn't even answer the question. I'm like, I don't remember what it was. 20? Yeah,
I said 50.
I thought it was
so we got a
10.
deal.
No.
I thought it
I
was
said
10.
50. I was like, it's probably like 50.
Oh, you said 50? See, I thought-
It'd be a really nice show, wouldn't it?
20,000.
Yeah. Paul, you used to do it for 10 or something?
7.
Did it for 7 one year?
And then I know it went up to 10 the year after.
I know that's
Inflation.
not possible
Yeah.
anymore.
It is.
We are in the realm.
It is. But thank you, board. Appreciate it. We got through a lot of work tonight, so thank you for that. Thank you for the good job. Thank you.
Is that the
Madam Clerk.
AC?
And that's rain. I
That's the
think.
rain.
So with that, if it's no opposition, I'm going to adjourn this meeting. Thank you very much.